Washington, D.C., I am very, very upset this morning. And there are multiple things that are causing me to be upset. Almost all of them surrounding the scenario with Terry McLaurin and what is going on. It's the Kevin Sheehan Show on the Team 980. Denton Day sitting in for Kevin here on the next Thursday and Friday on the program. You can tweet me at the Denton Day. I am upset because of what happened on Monday with Terry McLaurin. And then I'm more upset, Max, at what was said yesterday by Dan Quinn, the way that he sidestepped questions about Terry, about his excused absence on Monday, and then to an extent about when he is not going to be on the field practicing, calling it a not playing Where's Waldo yesterday. But here's who I'm upset about. Shockingly, it is not Terry McLaurin. I am upset at the team. And I think that's one of the very few times that anyone has been able to say that over the last 18 months. Since this new regime took over, they've done things really, really well. Every time we thought they might make a mistake, they seemingly did something better than we anticipated. You could highlight the hiring of Dan Quinn as the first installment of that. But I'm upset at the team. They are to blame for what has happened this week regarding Terry. It is not Terry. It is not Buddy Baker. Somebody needs to explain this to me, and you need to explain it to me like I am an idiot, like I am a child. Why on earth would a football team allow an excused absence for a game? Outside of a personal tragedy, which thankfully has not happened with Terry, because if it had happened with Terry, they would have been very quick to let us know he is excused because of something that needs his assistance that has nothing to do with football. Outside of a personal tragedy, why on earth would you excuse an absence from a game, specifically a game that is played at home? The New England thing makes at least a sliver of sense. Hey, he's not playing. We're not going to travel him. We are theoretically, he is going to stay and he's going to work out and he's going to do some treatment. He's not coming to New England. So the game against the Patriots made sense. But a home game, you're not paying for his travel. He either gets a seat on the bus or you say, hey, buddy, you got a car. We'll get you with a parking pass. Get here early so you can dip and dodge the traffic on the Beltway. There is in no world where an excused absence should be allowed. And I don't know who was the one to make the call to say, we are going to let you not come to the game. And I don't know what the reason is that they decided to make the call to not allow Terry to come to the game and just be fine with it. At a certain point, you got to put your foot down. If Terry comes to you and says, hey, I don't want to go to the game, you say, too bad. You are a part of this team. You are coming to the game. The Brian Robinson thing is different because everybody has come to the conclusion that Brian Robinson is not going to be here for much longer. We have not come to that conclusion with Terry. Terry is not getting traded, and they sure as hell are not cutting the man. Brian Robinson is going to be wearing a new jersey, potentially by the end of the day, Max. But at the very least, by the time we get to week 1 in a little over 2 weeks, Brian Robinson's wearing another jersey. We know that. He knows that. The team knows that. The players know that. Everybody is aware that Brian Robinson is not going to be here week 1, 2025. If you want to send him away from the team, perfectly fine. But Terry is a completely different thing. And it was really heartbreaking to look over at the other sideline and see Trey Hendrickson there. He was there. He didn't talk to anybody. I didn't expect him to. I would not have expected Terry to talk to anybody had he been there. But you have to be there. And as the franchise, you have to make sure that he is there. Don't come to me about, well, Denton, Sam Cosmi wasn't there. Bring Sam Cosmi there. Bring everybody there. If you're a part of the team and you preach nonstop, which they did last year, about culture and building a culture and building a brotherhood. They talk about brotherhood so much they sound like Duke basketball at times. If you talk about all of these things, you better make sure your players are there, hurt or not. It is a home game. Just get on the bus. You got plenty of buses. You have plenty of room. And if you can't make room for Terry or Sam, Make them drive. Have some intern drive them. Say, you are going to be at this football game. You are going to be there. The only time we have seen Terry so far this offseason, and this is getting very obnoxious now at this point, he has signed some autographs. He hugged Josh Harris. He talked to Adam Peters. You can be there for the burgundy and gold scrimmage, but you can't be there for the game. Why, as an organization, would you allow that? And like the distraction, oh, I don't want it to be a distraction, is the only thing that I can come up with. But my brothers and sisters in Christ, we crossed platform 9 3/4 to Distractionville like 10 days ago. The Terry thing is, it has been a distraction. It has long been a distraction, and it really hurts to see that the guy that we thought was the commander for life to be the one causing the distraction, but you have to have him there at that game. And then when you don't have him there, you cannot sidestep the questions about why he was not there. This is a swing and a miss, a very rare swing and a miss from the organization itself. Usually they're really good about these things. When it comes to PR lately, they've done a really, really good job about not being over the top with the anti-Terry stuff, which they have not been, to their credit. But it feels like now they're being a little too nice. Like you need to put your foot down and say, if you are serious about some of the things that you have said about wanting to be here, but just wanting to be respected, you got to respect us too. And you got to come to the game. You got to be there with your teammates, which we found out last week. Apparently he is not there nearly as frequently as we were led to believe based off of comments that Cliff Kingsbury made. Why are you allowing this? This is not a hold in. This feels way more like a holdout. All you're doing is just not finding the man. If he's going to act like a holdout, you might as well treat him like he's holding out at this point. And if he's not coming to a game, like you're not holding in and not coming to a home game. Those two things, the Venn diagram for those two things, there is no overlap. Those are just two completely separate circles. This is holdout behavior, and they are just allowing it. So I'm very upset at the team itself. You got to be way better about the way that you are handling this. There should be no such thing as excused absences for football games. That does not make sense to me in any way, shape, or form. And if you are going to take this approach moving forward, I can't imagine that this is going to change for the Ravens game this upcoming weekend. I hope it does, but I can't imagine it does because he was not at practice yesterday. Practice was like 45 minutes yesterday. Short practice. A lot of the work that they did at practice yesterday was on the far side of the field. They were installing some real things, it looked like, from afar. So they were doing like some really important install, and Terry is not out there. And that's where we got this line from Dan Quinn about where's Waldo. We're not going to be playing where's Waldo with Terry McLaurin. Why is he not out on the field? You want to talk about a ramp-up process? Do your ramp-up process, if you're serious about this, why is he not ramping up on off days? Like, is that really, really important? If you take him off the PUP list on Saturday, why would you not immediately start the ramp-up process completely aside in a vacuum from whatever their current schedule is versus a Sunday was a walkthrough, game on Monday, off day on Tuesday? If you're going to ramp him up to play football, to get in football shape, which is what Dan Quinn said yesterday, his process is the same as everybody else's. Shouldn't you take advantage of those days like a Sunday, like a Monday, particularly if you're not at the game? How many days do you need? Because you had 4 of them. You had 4 of them to ramp up before you get to Wednesday. And seemingly, they did not take advantage of it enough to actually get him out on the field. They got 4 fields out there. 4 of them. You're telling me you can't put him on one of them to just do some football stuff, as Cliff Kingsbury would say, on the grass. I want feet on the grass. I want him in football shape so he can run some routes, so he can work on cutting, so you can make sure all of the soft tissue stuff is getting acclimated to actually playing football again. That's usually what we mean by football shape. Terry's in great shape. Most NFL players, not all of them, but most NFL players are in really, really good shape. You just need to get acclimated to the way that you move when playing football, because unless you're still a sicko, it's not like you're running routes in a grocery store. There was a time in life, Max, where I would occasionally run a post route in a grocery store as I'm, or maybe a deep in as I'm shifting from aisle to aisle. I don't do that anymore. I can't imagine. Do. You still do that?
Yeah.
So Max is in football shape. I'm not in football shape. Max is in football shape.
It's more of a walkthrough than anything, but still.
So you run a little in route as you go from.
Hit him with that quick step.
But you need to get him ramped up. If Terry's not at practice today, practice is going to be at 1 p.m. So yesterday was at 2 p.m. Practice at 1 p.m. Dan Quinn speaking at 12:30. You'll hear that right here on the Kevin Sheehan Show with Dent Day sitting in for Kevin. I would be really, really upset if he is not out there today in some capacity at practice. Today is the first day where I feel like we should be expecting to see 17 on the field wearing some kind of burgundy and gold jersey. If not, I'm going to really, like, the panic meter is moving. It's just kind of like fluttering, right? It's just fluttering. I think I might, like 7? I keep losing track. I think I'm at 7 right now. If Terry's not out there today, he's not going to be out there Friday. Friday's a private walkthrough, which apparently they don't take advantage of because of a private walkthrough on Sunday, and they seemingly did not do enough to get him out on the field yesterday. So if he's not out there today, he's probably not going to be out there on Friday. Saturday is the game. We'll see if he shows up to the game. And then we start this whole process over again. It just feels like you're stuck in no man's land right now. And it's the guy that you never thought would be the one to stick you in no man's land. And the team right now is just kind of getting walked on. They should have activated him from the pup earlier when they knew, whenever this is that they knew. When they knew that this standoff was going to be longer than most of us anticipated. I thought this was going to be done like a day or two into training camp. When they got the understanding that this was not going to budge, that Terry was going to really dig his heels in, and that Buddy Baker was really going to dig his heels in, they should have activated him from the pup immediately. Sick. You're going to do this holding thing. You're not going to budge here. Awesome. Get your ass out there to practice. Get out there on the grass. At the very least, get in there in meetings. I'm very upset at the team for allowing it to get to this point where they are now just allowing excused absences from actual games. Very, very, very upsetting. There will be some positive things on the show. I promise it's not just going to be all Terry stuff all day. It does feel like the Terry stuff is getting a little bit out of control. But I was hoping this would be so far done by this point, because eventually they're going to have to cut the rosters down. And Terry will, he's activated now, so he is going to account for one of those roster spots. I have no idea what is going on with Noah Brown. Like, Noah Brown is flying completely under the radar in this entire process at the moment. We know that he's hurt. No one asks questions about him. We don't really have a huge timetable on Noah Brown. We just know that he's hurt. I don't know how much you can realistically trust Noah Brown as you head into 2025 because of the slew of injuries that he has had over the past recent months. And like, some of these aren't his faults. I don't know how you can account for like an internal organ injury that he suffered last year. Like, that's just one of those things where on the bingo card, you're like, I didn't have this one. This one was not one that I saw coming. But some of the other stuff, you just have to be mentally aware of that, of how much can we actually trust him. McCaffrey has been, man, I wish he was better. I watched Luke McCaffrey and I'm like, man, where is all of the things? We heard so many good things about Luke McCaffrey when they first drafted him. And you're looking at him now and you're like, man, like, where is it? Where are all of those things? I thought you were getting up early with Jane Daniels at rookie minicamp last year. Like, where is the hard work that you were putting in, translating it to the field? He's going to make the roster. At least he should make the roster. But I don't feel great about Luke. Jalen Lane, I do feel pretty good about, but I don't think he's going to come in here and be a superstar immediately. Their wide receiver group is looking very bare bones right now. If they have not already given Terry McLaurin the final offer, they need to slide the final offer across the desk and say, look, this is it. You are either going to take this or you are not, and then you are getting out on the practice field. No more excused absences. You are going to be on the field during the game on Saturday. I don't care if you're on camera. Everyone's on camera. It's not more of a distraction because he's on, like, they're still talking about it. There was no absence of talking about Terry McLaurin because he was not there. It was still a big topic on their Monday night pre-show. It was still a topic throughout the course of the game. It's a preseason game. You think Troy Aikman and Joe Buck care about the guys playing in the fourth quarter? No, they don't give a damn about them, respectfully. They do not care. They shift into podcast mode, especially when the game gets blown out of proportion a little bit. And on top of that, what are you going to be, a distraction from a preseason game? God forbid you lose a preseason game. They already lost the damn thing anyway. God forbid. What is costing them more in preseason games? Terry McLaurin's distraction, or the fact that Sam Hartman can't really throw more than 10 yards down the field right now with any sort of zipper power? You answer me that question. So the idea of this being an overwhelming distraction is something that I have no time for. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. How do you feel about the way they are handling the excused absence of Terry? Do you believe that he signed something by the end of, not the end of the week because it's Thursday, but do you believe that he signed something in the next 5 days? 301-230-0980. I'll play those Dan Quinn comments for you in the off chance that you missed them. We'll take some of your phone calls when we get back. It's the Kevin Sheehan Show with Dente sitting in for Kevin here on the Team 980. Waldo. I was today years old when I found out there is a legitimate theme song to Where Is Waldo. It is a show, apparently, that was founded or created in 2019. So we have, if nothing else, you learned something on today's show that Where's Waldo does have a legitimate theme song. Thank you to Max for finding this gem. I think it's on Peacock.
It is.
And that's the end of my promotion of whatever the show is. I don't know if it's good or bad.
It's a kid's show. It's probably not great, but hey, it's a kid's show.
There's been some good kid shows. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. Who is to blame for this week's happenings with Terry and the team? I put way more on the team for saying you should not allow a player to have an excused absence from a game. And if you are going to take that approach, you better make sure that your coach has a good answer when he is asked about it, because it's not exactly a secret that you're going to be asked about why wide receiver one, who has been the biggest story of this entire offseason, was not at a football game when the other guy holding out on the other team was very much there and present. You can tweet me at the Denton Day. Bama tweets me and says, GM Adam Peters has made it clear Terry McLaurin is just trade bait like Brian Robinson. Terry is the walking dead. He is trade bait for the 49ers. Brandon Ayuk and Jane Daniels reunion is coming to town. I do not believe that Terry is trade bait. I think we would very much know if Terry is trade bait. When we got the news earlier this week that Brian Robinson was being shopped, I took it very, very slowly. It's like, I don't know if Brian Robinson is actually being shopped here. Adam Peters doesn't leak. And then we very much found out quickly, no, Brian Robinson is being shopped. Oh, by the way, he's not going to play. Oh, by the way, he's not practicing anymore. They're keeping him healthy. He's not taking hits, wasn't getting reps. It's funny. We didn't know this at the time, but I'm watching practice on Saturday out there with everybody. We're watching practice, and all of us were kind of focusing on Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt because Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt was in a black non-contact jersey, and we're all focused on him. And I did not realize, because I was so focused on him in the rotation of running backs, that Brian Robinson was basically getting 0 reps on Saturday. And then we found out later that afternoon, later that night, that he is officially on the trade block, and then he did not play on Monday. I do not believe that Terry is trade bait right now for Adam Peters, because I think somebody would have already traded for him. I don't know what that kickback would have been, but if they were really serious about trading Terry McLaurin, I do think they would have traded him by now. Brian Robinson's a little bit more difficult to get a trade done, but we will discuss that coming up shortly. Dwayne tweeted me saying, the only time I agree with Rooster, I think the team asked him to stay home. I think they didn't want the camera on him every time a receiver missed a catch, etc. I actually think it would benefit Terry to be there, and they are the ones who did not want him there. If that is the case, that is why I am mad at the team, because that is an idiotic way of viewing things. You have to just take it on the chin at this point. If you're not going to give him the money that he is asking for, which I think the money he's asking for is a little too steep, given where he is in terms of production, what his age is. He does not deserve more than DK Metcalf. That DK Metcalf contract sucks. This organization is not going to be played as a fool because someone else decided to pay an overrated receiver a lot of money. We are not also going to fall into that. But if that's what they decided, that is a terrible, terrible decision to make. You just have to take it on the chin. Put him out there. Who cares if he's on camera every single time a receiver drops a pass? Tell your wide receivers who are on the cusp of making or not making the team to stop dropping passes. And by the way, they don't watch the broadcast, so they don't care. It's not like Adam Peters is sitting somewhere watching ESPN. He's watching the game on the field. So I don't think they care about that. But if they do care about that, I'm very, very upset at them for caring about that. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. What do you make of this situation? Who is to blame for what is currently happening this week with Terry and the Commanders? Hollywood is in Silver Spring. Hollywood, what's going on?
How you doing, man? I'm so torn. I'm so over it. I'm with you. It's definitely the organization now because I don't understand. Is the guy a hold-in or is he a holdout? I mean, there's no such thing as an excuse practice. I mean, look at Henderson. He was on the sideline. Cincinnati told ESPN he won't be answering any questions, so he just was standing there. Terry could have did that if he's truly just, off the PUP list and he's trying to get a contract. And I don't know. It seems like, I don't know, is this I mean, come on. He's not worth $34 million, man. I mean, the guy only had, four games last season, over 100 yards. The games that he had multiple receiving touchdowns, he didn't even eclipse 100 yards in those games. I mean, I love Terry. Terry's a good guy, but, I mean, 80% of me doesn't think this is Terry speaking. Like, nothing. I don't think this is Terry. I think this is about Buddy Baker's ego, him trying to get this money, and he's playing tug of war with Adam. Adam is, this is his first big negotiation, so he's not going to back down. He don't want anyone to smell any weakness. If this was a poker game, Buddy Baker and Terry have a 2-7, and Adam's holding a pair of aces. You know what I'm saying? Adam's holding a pair of aces. You got to play. You were crying about $50,000 fine, so you're really going to just give up $900,000 this season? Not playing? Come on, man. Stop it.
Yeah.
Sign the contract and get on the field.
Hollywood, I agree with you. So there's a couple things that I would just like to point out. First and foremost, I have crossed the threshold, Max. I have crossed the threshold. This is Terry's fault too. Like this is not just Buddy Baker anymore. Buddy Baker is not holding Terry McLaurin captive in a basement somewhere.
And I was talking about it with Hollywood a little bit before he jumped on, and it's just, I wish that one of us, you or I, or just any real fan, were able to kind of, I don't know, put it in a way where it's like, at least explain the team side of it. Because I just don't know that he's I think I'm worried he's only listening to the words coming out of Buddy Baker's mouth and using them or taking them as gospel, which
either that or he has. I mean, some of his alleged friends have been acting up on social media. I don't know
seen that as well,
the relationship between them, so I'm not going to put too much onus on what guys who say they know him are saying on social media. But at a certain point, and I've already reached that point, if you're not there yet, I will gladly welcome you on to this side of things. This is also on Terry. Like he needs to be there.
Because it's cheaper for the team long-term over these next 2 years to tag you. And
much cheaper.
And then at the end of that, you're 32.
And you're not, like, no one is going to give you a great deal. And by the way, even if in some crazy scenario, maybe it's not crazy, maybe this is the dream scenario, even if next year is a great year, and then the year after that where they franchise tag you is a great year, you know what they're going to do? They're just going to tag you again. And then you're just stuck in this like weird hell that Kirk Cousins was in here for a little bit and T. Higgins was in here for a little bit. We got to get off it's just Adam Peters or it's just Buddy Baker. I know that we love Terry. I love Terry. I want Terry to be a Commander for forever. I'm not even mad at him for trying to squeeze as much money out of these negotiations as possible. I would encourage everybody in every walk of life, if you're negotiating with an employer, you should be squeezing as much out of them as humanly possible. But we are now 2 weeks away from the season. It is August 21st. I distinctly remember watching Zach Ertz go on the Kay Adams show and laugh about, it's July, who cares? It ain't July, who cares anymore? We are deep into August. We are deep into training camp. There's one more preseason game, and then you are on to the New York Giants, and this guy still is not here, and he's still not showing up for games. This is on him as much as it's on Adam Peters and Buddy Baker. We are seeing a side of Terry that we have not seen before, but it's going so deep into the process where you're just scratching your head being like, this is not the guy that I thought he was. It's not that he's a bad guy, but he is taking these things to a depth that we never thought he would. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. Joe is in Westminster. Joe, what's going on?
Hi. Yeah, Terry needs to get to camp. And start practicing football. I have made this point, as you have, that he's under contract and the franchise tag's going to allow us to pay him less money over the next 2 years than what he's asking for. And these numbers that he's asking for and the reaction by some of the fans in this town are, quite frankly, outrageous to me. Just pay Terry. Just give him what he wants. That's not how you run an organization. Nor is they're going to trade him. For what? A fourth-round draft pick? it's all the fans in this town, unfortunately, for the last 30 years have been just suffering through so much crap on the field that they elevate Terry McLaurin and think he's Gary Clark or Charlie Taylor, or even, he's not even Santana Moss for that matter. Terry is overrated by this fan base. And I'm not saying he's a bad ball player. I'm saying he's overrated by this fan base. And the fact that people think he's worth $30+ million a year is outrageous to me.
Joe, I appreciate it. So here's what I will say. I do think there's a segment of the population of the fan base that does overrate him. I've had people tell me he's a top 5 wide receiver. He's not a top 5 wide receiver. I believe he's a top 10 wide receiver. I believe that he is deserving of $28 to $29 million per year. If you want to get that up to $30 million, I would not have a problem paying him $30 million per year. The problem is when you step up to $34 million. If you're asking for $34 million, then this is very much on Terry. Now, on the flip side, I can very easily point to the Commanders and say, if you're offering 25 when he's deserving of 28, 29, it's not his fault. But we think that we are past that 25 number at this point. I am led to believe that they are past the 25 number at this point. These are the points in the negotiations where you do approach the final offer if it hasn't come already. And your final offer, if you were offering 25, which we are led to believe by various Jeremy Fowler, SportsCenter, ESPN hits, we were led to believe that at a certain point they were offering $25 million. If they were if it's now at the final offer point, it's fair to think that that offer has come up at least a little bit to 27, 28, or maybe even 29. And if you're leaving 29 on the table, depending on what the guarantees are, which that's the one thing that's been very quiet this entire process. We've heard he wants DK money in terms of AAV. We've heard that maybe he wants DK money in terms of guarantees. We've heard that the team is offering you $25 million, or just what they said was slightly above what Cortland Sutton was getting in Denver. We have heard nothing about the guarantees that are being offered. And if they're shortchanging him on the guarantees, then I can look at what Terry is coming from and say, okay, I get it now, but I still think this needs to be handled significantly differently than it is currently being handled. Dave is in Alexandria. Dave, you're on the Kevin Sheehan Show with Denton Day sitting in.
Good morning, Denton. How you doing?
I'm good. Hope you are too.
Yeah. I blame both sides. As I think his, McLaurin's agent is overstepping his bounds, and Adams they should have signed him a long time ago. But I think he's going to play on his existing contract, and they'll franchise him next year. But my concern is a bigger issue: are now the team culture fractured with what's going on? Because you have other ball players saying, "Hey, this is one of our best ball players, and look what the organization is doing to him. Do I want to stay here in the future?" That's an underlying thing, and no one's addressed that yet, I don't think. My concern is culture. Now, get him on the field. I don't think he'll play in the Giant game at all, and because he's out of shape. He's just not he's not ready to play. Those are my thoughts, Denton.
Dave, I appreciate the call. I am optimistic that he is going to play against the New York Giants. I just don't know how much he is going to play against the New York Giants as it pertains to what you said about the culture. This is one of the big benefits of having an older team. You have a lot of veterans that understand the business of football, and you have a lot of veterans that have played on teams where guys have held out deep into training camp. Hell, the biggest leader, at least on the defensive side, and one of the most vocal voices on the defense is Bobby Wagner. Bobby Wagner played on a team in Seattle where Cam Chancellor held out 2 games into the season. So they understand the business of football. I don't think it fractures or blows up the team with the ongoing stuff with Terry, but we are getting closer and closer to where that might become a reality. Because if you do hold out into the season, I do think that changes things. In the preseason, it doesn't matter. I mean, half of these veterans like Von Miller and Bobby Wagner are not going to play in any preseason game. Laramie Tunsil is not going to play in any preseason game. So it's not like Terry missing preseason games is all that big of a deal. And some of those guys don't even practice on a super regular basis. Veteran off days are very big with the Commanders. And believe it or not, Terry is very much in what you would consider to be a veteran now at this point. So it would make sense that he, over in this process, had he been here for the entirety of it, would have had some veteran off days in there as well. I don't think this is blowing up the culture, so to speak, at least now. Will it get there? Potentially. I hope we don't ever see what that looks like in real time, but it could potentially get there when you start missing the games that matter. Guys like Von Miller came here to win a championship. He has been very vocal about that. He wanted to go to a place where he felt like he could win a championship, and this team has Jaden Daniels on it. And that was enough for him to come here late into the offseason, right before training camp. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. Squeeze Ian in here. Ian, what's going on?
Then that's a perfect segue. The goal is to win a championship. To get into a contract battle with your second best player on the team, your captain, a second team All-Pro. Again, we can debate where he ranks. I, like you, have him between 10 and 15, but he was a second team All-Pro player last year. He is a stalwart on the field, off the field. And yes, I don't think he's worth what Justin Jefferson is, etc. But I don't think anyone is quote unquote worth what they're getting paid. It's all relative. And when you say DK Metcalf is a bad deal, that's what sets the market. And for all these fans who want to put it on Buddy Baker, I think that's classic cognitive dissonance. You don't want to believe one of your favorite players is actively undermining the future of the team, so you blame someone else. I don't care who the agent is. You heard Terry's voice when he spoke. He felt hurt, disrespected, not valued, not cared for, not communicated with, and he is the one leading this. I absolutely think a compromise is there at 29 or 30 million. But as you've heard from Fowler, they're at 25, 26, maybe 27. I have not heard Terry's side say they want to be at 34. I've heard the team side say he wants to be at 34. So unless we have some factual evidence of what he's wanting, I think it's a lot of narrative that this guy's overvaluing himself. And I would just ask any fan who's like, trade him or he's going to play and leave him disgruntled, what's the net benefit? That you want a contract battle with your second best player when you're trying to win a Super Bowl? The whole idea of this offseason was to support Jaden Daniels. That's why you got Tunsil. That's why you drafted Connor Lee. If you didn't want Terry or value him, draft a wide receiver in the first and second round. You know, and all these people are Team Peters. How's Luke McCaffrey? How's Ben Sinnott? How's Marshawn Lattimore? How's the kicking debacle? This guy hasn't earned enough credibility for me to side with him over someone who's been here for 8-9 years, like Terry McLaurin. So I am Team Terry to the moon and back. And yes, I don't think he's worth 34, but I do think he's worth 30. And they've yet to offer that or even come close to that. Don't you think if they offered him 30 and he said no, the team would have leaked that? Of course they would. So again, just kind of think about how a person would approach this. And this whole notion that he's under contract, we all get that. But this is how the NFL works. Players hold out when they're getting close to their contract expiration date. So I'm ready for this to be over, but I'm Team Terry. If I was advising him, sit out a game or two, show them what your value is, a la Emmitt Smith, Cam Chancellor, and then they'll come back because they need you more than you need them.
Ian, I appreciate it. I would strongly point out that last thing that you mentioned, sitting out games, if you really want to go into like semantics, you could point to the Atlanta game and say he basically sat out that game. He was pretty much a non-factor because he was getting bracketed. Now, obviously, that changes if he's not on the field and what have you. But they still won that game. Like all of the Super Bowl chances are based on 5. It revolves around 5. But I can understand where you're coming from. Of you want 5 to have the most amount of weapons possible. I want Terry to be out there. What you said about the 33 and the 34 coming from the team side, I am in disagreement there. I believe that number is coming maybe a little bit more from Terry's side, because if that number wasn't accurate, let's just say that the team is pulling allegedly what the Nationals did with Juan Soto, right? Remember when that Juan Soto trade details leaked, and then that really upset, or that contract details leaked, where it was like 425 million over 14 or whatever it was, and then that really upset Juan Soto. If the team is pulling that, which I don't believe that they are, but if they're pulling that, why would you not just leak the information on the other side to be like, no, we're actually not asking for that? Our number is actually significantly lower. Notice that that number has stayed exactly at that DK number. That leads me to believe that that number was accurate, that he was asking for money that was similar to DK Metcalf, potentially at $34 million, because we know that each side has mouthpieces. Like if you want to play the media game, each side has certain people where they are going to send information to. And one of the guys that Terry's camp has seemingly sent a bunch of information to is Jordan Schultz. He was the one that broke that Terry was unhappy in like May at minicamp. He has kind of been all over this. So like, if that number was way off, I would think that Jordan Schultz would have had something to say, this number is way off. This number is inaccurate. And there has not been that. More of your phone calls coming up. We got a line open for you. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. How do you feel about this week and the current situation going on with Terry? Excused absences, the team dodging questions about excused absences. 301-230-0980. David Harrison, Locked On Commanders, joins us at 11 a.m. Don't go anywhere.
All right, here's what's happening on this Thursday, August 21st. The Commanders are signing center Nick Harris, who spent the last 5 years in Cleveland, 45 games played and 6 starts. Sounds like Mike Dieter may have some competition for that backup center spot. And some trades around the NFL last night. The Kansas City Chiefs are trading Sky Moore and a 7th-round pick to the San Francisco 49ers in exchange for their 6th-round pick. And Devon Valle was traded from the Broncos to the Saints in exchange for a 4th and a 7th. The Vikings are also sending defensive tackle Harrison Phillips and a 7th-round pick to the Jets in exchange for 2 6th-rounders. Plus the Nats, they even their series versus the New York Mets. Not a great night for the starters as Kodai Senga gives up 5 runs on 6 hits and just 4 strikeouts. Brad Lord gives up 4 runs on 7 hits through 5 and a third innings pitch. The Nats win 5-4. They will re-rack versus the Mets this afternoon. Mackenzie Gore takes them out versus Sean Manaea. First pitch at 4:05. Nats on deck with Charlie and Dave at 3:35 on the Fan. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live every day from 10 to 1. You can catch Denton's office throughout all of football season. Don't forget to hit the like button whenever you do decide to join us and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
That's right. The bag gets deeper. We got multiple Where's Waldo songs. I found that out today, too, so you have to find that out today. David Harrison at 11 a.m. here. It's the Kevin Sheehan Show with Denton Day sitting in for Kevin. We're taking a few more of your phone calls at 301-230-0980. You can tweet me as well at the Denton Day. I'm upset at the team for allowing an excused absence for Terry McLaurin and then for Dan Quinn effectively dodging any conversation about it yesterday during his media availability. He will speak again today at 12:30. Maybe we get an update on whether or not Terry is going to practice when they take the field at 1 p.m., even if it's just off to the side, feet on grass to appease one Cliff Kingsbury. Steve is in Columbia. Steve, what's going on? You're on the Kevin Sheehan Show with Denton Day sitting in.
Hey, how you doing, Denton? Like your energy. Look,
Appreciate
I'm
it.
a fault both. I'm a fault both. And let me just put it to you like this. Right now, going into that game against the Giants, if Terry's not there and Noah Brown we can't count on, who in the world do we have? That's a major issue. And I think the team didn't address it, and they might have, thought about keeping OZ or even Crowder based on the guys that they have left. As far as this actual contract standoff, as everyone knows, we're so close to this game. And I just think both sides need to say, you know what, let's sweeten the deal a little bit, or let's lower the deal a little bit, and let's come together for the benefit of the team. If everything is about winning, but I just really think Adam Peters was short-sighted once he got wind. Well, even before the signing, that they did not address the wide receiver position. I mean, it looks bad, man. It really looks bad.
It doesn't look good, Steve. I'll tell you that. I appreciate the call. Them not addressing the wide receiver position more than just drafting Jalen Lane, who hopefully is a good player, but thinking that a rookie that you drafted in the third round is going to come in and replace a guy in Terry who was an all-pro last year is flawed. That's a flawed way of thinking. I am surprised that they did not get anybody else out there. Like Michael Gallup does not move the needle. KJ Osborne does not really move the needle in terms of guys that you would feel comfortable with week number 1 against the Giants, especially considering that Giants defensive front is dangerous. So you're really going to have to be able to create separation and create separation fast if you are a wide receiver. And they don't really have anybody outside of Deebo Samuel who can do that right now. By the way, when it does come to week 1, you're going to see Deebo Samuel it's not just going to be screens and deep crossers. Shall I say that? I think they're going to expand his route tree. I think his route tree is complete, by the way. So he can do a lot more things. It was just in San Francisco, they decided to have him as a screen guy, a quick slant guy, a crosser, like a shallow crosser. I do think he has a little bit more in his bag that you will see come week 1, but you need Terry out there if you want to be as successful as possible. This has gone on way longer than I think any of them anticipated. I don't know if they were just so incredibly stunned at what Terry was thinking in terms of that first contract offer that Charles Robinson of Yahoo said was so high and so out of the range of the team that they almost stopped negotiations there. I don't know what has caused it to go as long as it has, but they definitely need Terry out there if they want to be able to get to the place where they were last season. John is in Fort Washington. John, what's going on?
Hey, what's up, Denton?
How are you?
I'm doing well, man. Hey, listen, when Ian was on the line, we cried. I mean, you look at what Bruce Allen and Ron Rivera did. Now we have a general manager who's conducting business, right? So he talked about the draft, and you got a third-round left tackle that pretty much started almost the whole year, and we made it to the NFC Championship game. I mean, I just think that Terry. I look at when they say about the 30-year-old wide receivers and their decline, and I think that has to play a part in it. I mean, you look at Jerry Rice when he was just hanging on, and not to compare Terry to Jerry Rice, but I'm just talking about older wide receivers. It's a fact. I mean, you can't beat Father Time. I think if they got to 28, 29 million, and I really couldn't, fault them to go into 30 million, but it's guaranteed money. Then they have to look at the fact that they're going to have to pay Jayden $500 million when his contract come up. So those are my thoughts, Denton. Have a great day, man. You're
I
doing
appreciate
a great
it.
job.
Appreciate it. Yeah, Jane contract might actually hit $500 million, which is a crazy thing to say out loud, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility if this season ends up looking like how last season looked. Skip is in DC. Skip, what's going on?
Denton and Max, you guys are such snowflakes. Have you ever been in a high stakes negotiation?
No,
Don't you
tell me about
understand that it gets very uncomfortable when it's coming to an end? That's the whole point, is to make people feel uncomfortable. That's how deals get done. And of course, Terry and his agent are not going to give you his bottom line offer at this stage, especially when the team's offer is so low. The last thing they want to do is say, okay, we'll concede to 30, and then the team will say, okay, we'll meet you halfway between there. That's not how it works. You hold out with your high offer till the end, to the very end. And I think the end is coming.
Well, yeah, where is the end for you? Are we not there yet?
I think it's in the cuts. I think it's Monday, right before the cuts, because if you're going to have a roster spot for Terry, I think that's when it comes. Plus, you need those 2 weeks in order to get him ready for the first game. I think they would love to have him in now, but why would he go out and do any strenuous activity? What if he gets hurt before signing a deal? I wouldn't do that. And the last thing I think Terry's going to do is play the contract that he has now. He'd be better off taking whatever they're offering. And let's get this. It's not really the AAV. It's the guaranteed money.
It's the guarantees, correct.
And how much are they offering guaranteed? Terry, we don't know. That's what we don't know. I've heard 50, and I think Terry wants the 60 that DK Metcalf got. That's a big difference. That's $10 million, okay? So that's what has to be worked out. What is that going to be? If Terry can squeeze another 5 or 6 million, then it's worth it. Everything he's going through now is going to be forgotten once they sign the deal. I mean, you all are so uncomfortable, and everybody's saying, oh, wow, he needs to be in there now. No, he doesn't. He doesn't need to be in there until the final negotiation, which is happening this week. And then if he gets his money and he comes out on the field, everything will be fine. You're talking about missing a preseason game? You're making a big deal about him not being at a preseason game.
Of course I'm making it. Hold up. I didn't think he was going to play, Skip. I want him there to stand there.
What's the point? Who cares?
What do you mean, what's the point?
I agree with Ian. This is all coming from Terry. Terry did not want to be at that game. Terry did not want, Terry's the one that probably feels like, well, if they take me off the pup list, what do they expect me to do? I'm not going out there and getting hurt before I sign a deal.
I'm not expecting him to be out there playing a game. Why are you not getting that? I'm not expecting him to be playing a game. I'm not expecting him to go out there and practice. He can jog on the field.
Symbolism, what's the point of him even being there?
The symbolism is the point of him being there. How is that so hard and difficult for you to understand? Isn't this a place of brotherhood and culture?
Everybody feel uncomfortable. He wants you all to be upset that he wasn't at the game.
Wouldn't it be more uncomfortable if he was there?
I think he was. I think and I agree with Ian. This is all Terry's doing. It's all fun and well to say to blame it on Buddy Baker, but Terry's the one.
I'm not blaming Buddy Baker. I'm off that. This is on Terry. It's fine. I don't blame him for wanting more money,
right.
But I definitely think you should stand there in street clothes.
Personally, I don't know the real story, but I think he didn't want to be at that game. I think he was making a point. He said, look, we need to wrap this up now. I'm not showing up to the game. I'm not doing what you want me to do as far as practicing because I don't want to get hurt. Let's come to a final agreement. I've heard that the bottom line is 30 for Terry.
Skip, I appreciate it. Here's the thing. If he did not want to be, this was my whole point at the beginning of the show. If he did not want to be at the game, sorry, Skip, I had to let you go. We got David Harrison coming up here in like 5 minutes. If he did not want to be at the game, as the team, you should put your foot down. This is a hold in, not a holdout that he is now treating like a holdout. If you don't want to be at the game, fine. We are going to fine you. Outside of that, you need to be there. There is no reason that you cannot be here with your guys. Trey Hendrickson was there. Was it uncomfortable for people there on the sidelines? Maybe. I don't really know. If Terry shouldn't be trying to make everybody on the sideline uncomfortable, but he needs to be there. And if the team is going to allow themselves to be walked on by giving out excused absences to actual games, then this is not a hold in, and they need to be fining him. This is the reason why I was so upset, because they are acting kind of out of control a little bit, saying, we're just going to kind of let Terry do whatever he does in the hopes that this is eventually going to get signed. I want Terry to get his money. I want him to get his money here, but eventually you have to play. Somebody has to be the adults in the room and say, you need to at least be a part of what we have going on here. If you want to hold out for your money and you don't want to practice and you want to do all these things, fine. They have not made him practice yet. He didn't practice yesterday. I don't really have high expectations that he's going to practice today, though I do feel like he can run on grass. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. I don't think he's going to hurt himself. He can run on grass, but you have to be out there with your team, and we're not just going to give you a leeway and an excused absence because you don't want to be there. We let your ass come out here and sign autographs 5-6 days, whatever it was. We let your ass come out here and hug Josh Harris. You might as well come to the damn game too. David Harrison, Locked On Commanders. He joins us next on the Kevin Sheehan Show with Dent Day sitting in. It's the Kevin Sheehan Show. Dente sitting in for Kevin here on the Team 980. All of our training camp coverage on the Team 980 is brought to you nationally by Geico. Switch and save. Get more with Geico. To talk training camp for the Commanders and everything that's gone on out there over the past few days, we welcome on our guy David Harrison of the Locked On Commanders podcast. Good enough to join us here on the Kevin Sheehan Show. David, did you play any Where's Waldo this morning just for giggles?
I mean, it's pretty much a daily exercise, right? I mean, I think we'd be lying if we didn't say that every day we came out to practice, we're trying to spot, number 17, see if he's going to be out there or not.
Do you think today is going to be the first day where you see him with a 17 jersey on?
I don't get the sense that that's going to happen. I have a feeling that we're probably not going to see him until Wednesday before the Giants game.
Wow, that's a long time, isn't it?
Yeah.
So are you of the belief
Perhaps
that
he'll be at the game this weekend?
That has been a very big point of contention on the show so far, David. Do you believe that he is going to get an extension at all, or is he going to play on this current deal?
I mean, it's really up to him, right? Like, I think that the team has offered him, what is probably perceived as fair market value. And if he wants to accept, fair market value, then he can have it. And we can all move forward, with what's going to happen next. And he can continue his climb up the ladder as a franchise great. If he doesn't feel like he's being compensated fairly, then he certainly has the right to bet on himself and play out the year. And, the Commanders always have the franchise tag in their back pocket, so he's got to be kind of aware of that situation as well. But, so if he's asking for the money that, we're thinking he's asking for, the Commanders don't have to give him that money until at least, 2027. And by then, whether or not he's going to feel like he has the ammunition to demand it then is going to, something to be seen. But I think, the question comes down for Terry, it's a matter of pride versus legacy. I think, obviously his pride is kind of hurt, feels disrespected, as he said publicly. But, if he's concerned at all or values at all his legacy, the best way to cement his legacy is to get another 2 or 3 years here with the Commanders and get into that top 3 range in franchise history and do that. So, it really comes down to what each individual person values.
How has everyone else looked at wide receiver in the absence of Terry?
Yeah, Debo's looked great. I think Debo has looked like everything that, fortunately for me, that I sold to my listeners when they traded for him, because I definitely went hard on I'm not worried about, his illness from last year and the weight that he gained or muscle mass that he lost then and all that. So fortunately for me, he's proven me correct in that aspect. Luke McCaffrey has been kind of an up and down case this training camp. Like, he's had some really good practices, but then he's also not really kind of appeared in the games yet. I think the big grain of salt there is, his biggest rapport is with Jaden Daniels. And usually when he's on the preseason field, Jaden Daniels is not. And obviously we saw that one drive that Jaden played this preseason. They didn't throw the ball a single time. They only called one pass. So, you can't expect Luke to go out there and light it up in that type of a situation with your starting quarterback. So, I think there's a big grain of salt to be taken there when we get to the regular season and Luke has that rapport with Jaden still, and that's who he's working with, exclusively. I think things could look better there. Jalen Lane has been incredibly impressive. The coaches have said that he's ahead of schedule. I think he's far better in this system than I expected him to be as a rookie. I had high hopes for him as an offensive player in year 2, but definitely not what he's done so far in year 1.
Do you think that he will get some sort of significant snaps during the regular season on offense, even if Terry is there?
Yeah, I mean, I think he will. I think even if Noah Brown is healthy and able to come back, if you have Terry, Debo, Noah Brown, Luke, and Jalen, I think that because Jalen does something different than what Noah Brown does, he does something different than what Luke McCaffrey does. So I think there's definitely got to be a package in mind if you're Cliff Kingsbury, where you have Terry, Debo, and Jalen on the field at the same time. And really, from a defensive standpoint, I mean, you put one of those guys in motion and you keep one of them on the opposite side, and you've got Terry over there being scary as usual. I mean, I don't know how you defend it. And oh, by the way, then there's Zach Ertz. You know what I mean? So it's a terrifying, perspective for an opposing defense to have to face. And I think Jalen has proven that he has what it takes to thrive in that system. And look, any rookie would benefit from having receivers like Terry McLaurin and Deebo Samuel on the field with them. but that doesn't mean that, they should steer away from it just because someone on the opposite side of the fan aisle might try to discredit it. Maximize it, exploit it. And, heck, if Jalen Lane comes out the leading receiver in a couple of games because defenses are so focused on stopping the other guys, so be it.
How many wide receivers do you anticipate that they're going to keep on the final 53?
I think right now I've got my number at 6. I'm actually working through my own personal 53-man roster projection. I've got some spots that I need to make some tough decisions on, and, certainly not as tough as the real decisions are going to be. But I think right now I've got 6. I think Terry, Debo, Noah Brown, Luke, and Jalen are your easy 5. And then that 6th spot, really kind of comes down to Michael Gallup, KJ Osborne, and Ja'Cory Brooks. And that's where I'm kind of battling, and also got to make a decision. Like, is this what I would do, or do I want to try to be predictive and say this is what I think Adam Peters will do? So I've got to decide that as well, because obviously one of those decisions is easier than the other.
David Harrison, our guest here on the Kevin Sheehan Show with Dent Day sitting in. You can find him on Twitter at dharrison82, and you can find his podcast, The Locked On Commanders, wherever it is that you get your podcast. So with Brian Robinson either being shipped out of town or being released at some point, everybody loves Bill, right? We all love him. Is he going to be running back 1 week number 1, or are we overlooking Chris Rodriguez?
I kind of think that position group might just be really fluid, and kind of like the depth chart version of positionless basketball, right? Like the start is going to go to the first guy that's on the field, or the first guys that are on the field. They go with the 2-back set, right? But really, it's just going to be matchup based, So when you look at the New York Giants and you look at how you want to attack that defense, which back fits how we want to attack this defense the most. Then as the game flow goes, which back is having the most success against his defense with these looks, and that's going to be the guy. I really kind of think that's the way you probably have to set it now. The big caveat I think you have to add to that is, this team, and this, I know, like, this team does more work than what we get to see. Even during training camp, we get to see more than we get to see during the regular season, but we're still not seeing how the entire sausage is going to be made. So if there's things in the background where, Chris Rodriguez is just kind of blowing the door off of things, or if Bill is doing the same, then, certainly you can see them lean into one of those guys. But just using kind of what we've seen on the practice field, I definitely kind of feel like there's a 3 or maybe even 4-back rotation where it's just going to be a situational decision on who gets the touch and who doesn't.
What about Bill being at training camp just about every single day? What about Bill has impressed you so much?
I mean, just so first and foremost, like, before he even arrived to Ashburn, when he was drafted during the pre-draft process, when I learned about him, and the fact that, and I keep calling it this, fully intending to take a shot at the NCAA, he lost all but one game of his final collegiate season due to what basically boils down to an accounting error. The NCAA didn't count his eligibility correct, and then once they caught their mistake, they punished the kid. You know what I mean? And I just think that's garbage. But that's a whole other discussion for another day. But for Corey Crossy-Merritt to then stay at Arizona, to participate with the football program, to within the limits that he could, and then to show up to the Shrine Bowl in an all-star game, having not played for meaningful football for months, and just show out, you know what I mean? Just be the MVP and do all those things. I mean, that's such an impressive thing. We see guys every off season, that are in the NFL getting paid, hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars, come back from their off season, knowing they've got meaningful football ahead of them, and, not always in the best condition to go execute that mission. So for this college kid to have that mindset, which is super impressive before he ever even got drafted, and then getting to know him a little bit and seeing him on the practice field, he's every bit as advertised from a maturity standpoint and a mentality standpoint. But then his physicality, man. I mean, the kid cuts and moves without losing, a millisecond of miles per hour on his flow, and just the way he sees the field. Even before pads came on, they were doing some run sets, and you could just see him finding the holes and all these things. It's been incredibly impressive, and you try not to like hype him up too much, because you don't want to get to like insane levels of expectation, but it's really hard not to be excited about what you see out of him.
David Harrison with us here on the Kevin Sheehan Show with Dent Day, sitting in for Kevin here on the team 980. David, on the defensive side of things, specifically the defensive line, who are some of the names that have really stood out to you while you're watching practice?
Yeah, Javon Kinlaw has to be, one of those first ones you mentioned. I know DQ highlighted him specifically coming out of the preseason game, but, shout out to one of our fellow reporters, Candy Waller of Bowie TV. She has been doing a lot of homework on Javon Kinlaw and really watching him in practice a lot. And she kind of pointed out to me a couple of times, how impressive he's been, and turned my eye onto him as I'm watching maybe some other players. But he, for a guy that every national, talking head that could wanted to tear down his contract and do all these things and talk about Adam Peters overpaying him and everything, it's still very early, obviously. But just from the sample size that we do get to look at, he looks every bit, worth the contract that Adam Peters gave him. And I still push back on the overpay, evaluation, just from the fact that the Commanders need to move on from him next year. They can do so and actually save a little bit of money. Not a lot, but a little. And that tells me the contract's not terrible. But yeah, I think he's looked like what you expected them to bring him in for, adding that strength, adding that tenacity, kind of that dog in the defensive line. He's certainly added to that.
Do you think we could see any 5-down sets, if you will, with the three of them, Kinlaw, Payne, and Newton?
Yeah, I think it's certainly possible. Obviously, the offense is going to dictate that a little bit, and that question is going to get answered a little bit more on the opposite side of, how many times are these opposing teams going to go, with maybe heavier sets and things like that. But the great thing you like about, some of these other players like Dietrich Wise, has the opportunity or has the ability to play up and down the D-line. Kinlaw has the opportunity to play up and down the D-line. Johnny Newton's got a little bit of quickness in his feet and things like that. And don't get me wrong, again, I don't want to get crazy with any type of hype or anything. I'm not saying you should, be dropping these guys in like hook zones or anything like that on a regular basis. But, if every once in a while you want to throw a 5-man front at them and then make the quarterback go, oh man, like these guys are just not going to cover anybody. And then you surprise them with some long arm DNs or something like that out there in the flat or wherever. It's not necessarily a bad mind game to play if you time it right. And that's something that Joe Witt Jr., the defensive coordinator, has talked about is, games are fun, but you got to play them at the right time. And those are certainly the kind of games that he's got to be contemplating. Whether or not we'll see it early or even often, I doubt it's going to become a staple, but certainly if you come up against a team that wants to try to, run the ball down your throat, that's certainly a look that they're going to be able to go to.
Is there any position that you are worried about?
I think the position you have to be worried about, just if you're being an honest broker, there's three of them. And I think, and the problem is they're all on the offensive side. So you're really kind of hoping that, Jaden and a little bit of good luck is going to save you here. But the O-line, we haven't been able to see the real starting five really ever, right? If you especially if you count Sam Cosmi, right? If you count Sam Cosmi with his door being open to potentially come back early in the season, we've never seen him. But even without Sam, the other starting five, if you want to call it that, we've seen very little of. So that's, concerning from an outside perspective. The running back room, this is a conversation I had when the Brian Robinson stuff first started, is just watching at camp. Like, it still looks like Brian has been, kind of the best back for this team between the lines. Now, this business goes beyond the field, right? And there's certainly other aspects of whether or not a team decides to stay with a player and all that stuff that we can't get into. But, so that being the fact, it kind of goes to your question, right? Who's the RB1? And, some would say, well, if you don't have an RB1, you don't have any running backs at all. And some would say, we go back to last year in the wide receiver 2 situation and, who's wide receiver 2? Well, this week it's Olamide Zaccheaus. Next week it's Jamison Crowder. Who cares as long as we have one when we need him, right? So there's two sides to that conversation. And then the receiver room. I mean, again, Luke hasn't flashed in competition, and so that could be problematic. Jalen is a rookie, so how much of it is a flash and how much of it is real? And Terry hasn't been on the field. So there's a lot of questions you can have there as well. So it's I think there's certainly some things that need to get answered there. I think that's why you see a little bit of that frustration from Cliff last week that we saw when we talked to him. And I know Jaden is being the leader and putting on a good face and everything like that. But there's got to be at least a little bit of a question in the back of everybody's mind if this offense is going to be able to get to where they need to and click against a very tough New York Giants defense in week 1.
Anything Sam Hartman can do to at least make the practice squad, or his days numbered here?
I feel like he's probably going to end up on the practice squad. Like, there's really, I'll put it this way, I don't think it hurts the team to put him on the practice squad, right? So you give him that opportunity. He's real tight with Jaden. He's real good for that quarterback room. His IQ is something that people praise a lot. And, when he's throwing on time, you can see that IQ really kind of shine. But, he reminds me of Taylor Heineke a lot, where he's got to not even sometimes anticipate the throw. He's almost got to predict the throw. And I think that's really hard in the National Football League when you don't have the arm strength to deliver the ball late or to deliver the ball exactly on time. You know, it kind of goes back to, you know, we all had those bosses that say, if you're not 15 minutes early, you're late. Well, that's kind of how Sam Hartman has to play quarterback, you know, and that's really, really difficult in the National Football League to do. I think there's still enough there that, you know, the coaching staff believes in him. Then there's value in bringing him back on the practice squad, you know, for at least one more year. So I don't know that his days are numbered per se, but I think the quarterback 3 conversation is certainly over and done with.
David, appreciate the time as always, my friend. Enjoy practice, and who knows, maybe we will actually see 17 out there, though I'm not optimistic.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you.
That is David Harrison, host of the Locked On Commanders podcast at dharrison82, where you can find him on Twitter. Good enough to give us some time here on the Kevin Sheehan Show with Denton Day sitting in for Kevin. Caroline Fenton coming up on the show at 11:35. We're going to talk some college football with Caroline. Really excited about that. We are getting so close to the season. We got week 0 this weekend. My college football show comes back this weekend on Sirius XM, so get excited about that. We'll talk college football with Caroline coming up in about 20 minutes, but we'll take a few more of your calls on the Terry situation. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. How do you feel about where things currently stand? Do you think a deal is going to get done prior to the Giants game? 301-230-0980. It's the Kevin Sheehan Show with Denton Day sitting in for Kevin on the Team 980. It's the Kevin Sheehan Show. Denton Day sitting in for Kevin here on the Team 980. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. You want to join the conversation about the Terry McLaurin situation? We just had David Harrison on. David does not expect to see Terry today at practice. I don't really expect to see Terry today at practice, though I would like him out there just to run, feet on grass, football condition, all the things that come with the ramp up of getting things ready to play. I'd like to see him. I do not anticipate that we will. How do you feel about the scenario that is going on right now with Terry and Washington missing games because of excused absences and then having coaches dodge questions about Terry's whereabouts? Spoiler alert for Dan Quinn. You're going to get asked about it again today. He speaks at 12:30, a little over an hour from now. We will carry that presser in its entirety here on the Team 980. He's going to get asked about Terry McLaurin again, so I hope he is ready and prepared to answer questions about Terry McLaurin. But your thoughts, 301-230-0980. Samu is in Rockville. Samu, what's going on? You're on the Kevin Sheehan Show with Dent Day sitting in. Samu, you there? Check, check. He is not there. Lap is in D.C. Lap, what's going on?
Yeah. Hello?
Lap, what's up?
Yeah, what's up, then? Hey, man, they got to get this together, man. This is crazy we dragging on with this, man. This is ridiculous, man. We don't want this man to get hurt. The wide receiver group is very suspect, you know what I'm saying? And we don't have nobody on Terry's caliber there, you know. And Mr. Brown, which I call him Mr. Glass, he's healthy. I would feel a little bit better if he was, you know, healthy, but we need him to get out there. And this is why I didn't want Debo running around doing jet sweeps and all this stuff, man. We need him strictly wide out because we got running backs to do that. And plus we're thin at wide receiver. So I don't know what they're going to do, man. But if Terry not getting what he want, he need to fire his agent and get Jaden Daniels' mom, and maybe she could push it longer. But this is crazy, man, that it's still dragging on. But hopefully we get it resolved, man, because we really want to focus on football then, man. But keep up the good work, bro. Good show. Have a good weekend if I don't talk to you again, bro. But, yeah, this is crazy, bro.
Yeah, Lap, I appreciate it. So one thing that you did mention in there, well, I do think it would be funny if he hires Jaden's mom as an agent. She is licensed by the NFL, so that can work. I don't know if she can. I don't know what stages of that process she is. I don't know if she is a licensed agent. I don't know that she has clients, so to speak, or if she is just like handles the business stuff for Jaden or parts of the business stuff for Jaden. I don't know that if Terry fires Buddy Baker and hires somebody else that this immediately gets done. I don't think that he's going to get any more money right now. He's stuck at whatever the price point is. Whatever he wants in terms of guarantees, AAVs, whatever. I don't believe there's another agent that is going to get him that. Like, I don't think Buddy Baker is this oblivious fool that's just walking in there speaking like in backwards sentences. I don't believe that to be the case. I just think that the two sides are far apart on negotiations where Terry's side wants X, the Commanders are offering Y, and they need to find a way to get to one side or the other. Jason is in Laurel. Jason, what's going on?
Hey, Denton. Love the show. So for me, this is so discouraging because Terry has been one of the bright spots of this team. And I'm 51, been a fan all my life. And we finally get a good organization, a good owner, a good coach, a good general manager, and a good quarterback. And then this goes to hell. And quite honestly, I think it's really getting deep. I'm astounded by how many calls that I take that I hear you take where people are still all about Terry and badmouth and AP and the team. I don't know what these guys are thinking or seeing. I think Terry's a very good wide receiver, but north of $35 million, which there's been no pushback that's what their initial ask was. I heard you in the opening monologue mention it. No pushback at all if that was their opening ask. It's entirely too much money for this particular player. And we're at a point now where I almost hope that he doesn't play. I really do. I think if me and you and my two pit bulls suited up a wide receiver for the team, some combination of Cliff and Jaden could figure it out. I mean, Look at all the receivers that were on this team last year that aren't here now. There's a reason they're not here. They figured they could do better or do as much with different guys.
Yeah.
And I think Terry's window for being on maybe a Super Bowl team is closing. And it's unfortunate, but, the monstrous amount that they asked for initially is why this is all hammed up. And I just think he's made a gross miscalculation on what he's worth.
Yeah, Jason, I appreciate it. I will say, if you and I and your pitbulls lined up, I have deceptive speed for a white dude. I don't know that I would do much off the line of scrimmage, though, in the NFL. But I get the point that you are making. Jaden and Cliff, they can do a lot with a little. They showed that last year. I still want Terry. Like, I don't want anyone to take it out of the words out of my mouth and think that I don't want Terry McLaurin to play. I very much do want Terry to play. I want him to get signed to an extension yesterday so we can move on and talk about the running backs and talk about the offensive line. And man, Josh Connolly's looked pretty good for a rookie that's transitioning from college to the NFL, or we can talk maybe more in depth about like a Jalen Lane or literally anybody else. This is just the cloud that is hovering over the head right now. And it does feel like a punch in the gut because the one guy that you thought would never have the team in this kind of situation is the guy that currently has the team in this kind of situation. I'm never going to fault a guy for wanting his money, though. Go get your money. This is a very tough business that you are in. It is the NFL is not something that has a lot of longevity for most players. So if you get the opportunity to have longevity, you need to take advantage of it financially. So I'm not faulting Terry for any of that. I do just think the way this has been handled has not been the greatest. And that's partly on his agent, but that's also partly on him because the agent is working for him. Terry is not working for the agent. I can't remember who it was, Max, but there was a caller that said the agent just wants his cut of this money, and that's why the number is as high as it is. I will tell you, whatever the number is, I don't know what the number is going to be. Whatever the number is going to be the largest contract that Buddy Baker has negotiated for an NFL player. So whatever the cut is going to be the largest cut that he has gotten from an NFL negotiation.
By far.
By a very large margin. Like none of his other clientele have been in positions to get this kind of deal before. 301. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to make a joke. What do you think's bigger, the cut that Buddy Baker's going to get from the contract, or however much Jordan Schultz gave him to give that information up about Terry?
I plead the fifth. It is a Kevin Sheehan show. Dentonay sitting in for Kevin here on the Team 980. I actually think Schultz does a pretty good job, but there are some rumors out there. I don't want to see him in
there
Starbucks.
Are rumors.
Don't get me in trouble, Max. I do go to Starbucks a lot. Devon is in Rockville. Devon, what's going on?
What's up, Denton? What's up, my man? I'm so glad this season, time of the year, is coming back because you are a college football genius.
Oh, yeah.
You are an intelligent sports analyst and all that good stuff. You know, I've been one of the ones. But to speak on this, I totally agree with you, Denton, as I typically do because you're just a smart individual. And typically two smart individuals can often think alike. I just think that I think too much of the fan base has the Ashburn syndrome where it's like Terry is arguably a top 10, but definitely a top 15. So it's like, yes, he's the number one on our team, but I beg to plead to make this point. Then if you put Terry on the Cowboys opposite of CeeDee Lamb, he'd be a number two. If you put him the opposite of Pace, he'd be a number two. If you put him opposite of Jared Jefferson, he'd be a number two. So it's like, but if you flip it and say CD, Pace, Jefferson come to Washington, Terry will be a number two. So I say that to say I want Terry too. I believe he is a number one. He's a dog. But it's just like, with this being said, I think us as the fan, well, not me, but the typical bunch of the fan base is like, oh my God, the team AP is doing Terry wrong, when it's like, hold up. Terry came in and got his extension. He's working on his second. So he already got paid for his potential, and he's still on that contract, and he's been, some could say he outperforming the contract. You know what I'm saying? But when you look at it, Terry been getting 1,000 yards every year with you out there throwing. This is his first year with a prolifical quarterback, and I'm not taking nothing away from Terry. The only difference is he doubled his touchdowns. So the team, business-wise, can easily say, is that more on Terry, or is it because we got this young GOAT as the quarterback? Right. So how much, so I get it, it's a negotiation, but I feel you. He's off a pup. He's supposed to be back with the team. If he, like you said, if his ass is out there signing autographs, why isn't he at the Monday night game? You know what I'm saying? You know all the camera's going to be looking for you, and then the team is just excusing him. It's like they being too. I'm with you. They being like, okay, we got to show Terry we respect him, but he's not. It seems like he's not being realistic. And like you said, last thing, then everybody wants you to go get your bread, Terry. But it's coming down to the nitwits of, are you going to harm yourself and wait so long, and then you run out there week one and get a soft tissue? Like you know what I'm saying? Like, come on. Like, I just think that it's all in the protocol of business. And I think that we as fans shouldn't just be trying to beat down AAP when this is his, you know what I'm saying? This is his second year. Like, this is his first big negotiation contract. And AP we trust was last year, so why is it still this year? I take it off the air, buddy.
Devon, I appreciate it as always, man. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in there. The fact that he signs the autographs but wasn't at the game is the thing that kind of rubs me the wrong way about it, and I can't understand why they decided to allow that to happen. And I do think it is worth pointing out that there's only a very small minority. It's a vocal minority, but there is only a small minority of people that don't want Terry to get paid. I get those people in my Twitter mentions every day when I post that daily tweet about wanting this deal to get done. People have called in. They're in the YouTube chat. Oh, we don't want Terry to get paid anymore. We don't want him to get paid. I still want him to get paid. I want him to be here, and I want him to be catching touchdown passes from Jaden Daniels. At this point, I would love to be a fly on the wall because I'm nosy. Like, what is the holdup? What are these conversations like? What arguments is Terry's side making versus what arguments are being made from the Commander's side in terms of actual numbers? Like, what are the statistics that are being brought up by both sides into these negotiations? I have a feeling that while all of us will very easily point to how many 1,000-yard seasons Terry has had, that the team is pointing and saying, yeah, but he's never gone over 12. Because 1,000 yards in a 17-game season, which not all of those were 17-game seasons because he was playing at the part of the NFL calendar or the NFL history where they were only playing 16-game seasons. But a 17-game season, 1,000 yards, it's less than 60 yards per game. Like, that's not exactly eye-popping numbers, where there was a point in time where that was upwards of like 70 to 80 yards per game, which is significantly larger to take into consideration when you're starting to dish out some money. That's where we're going to end the Terry conversation for the day. Appreciate everybody who did hop up on the phone lines. We're going to talk college football. Caroline Fenton of Yahoo Sports and SiriusXM, she joins us on the other side. It's the Kevin Sheehan Show with Dent Day sitting in for Kevin here on the Team 980.
All right, here is what is happening on this Thursday, August 21st. The Commanders are signing center Nick Harris, who spent the last 5 years in Cleveland. He's played 45 games and started in 6. Sounds like Mike Dieter may have some competition for that backup center spot. And some trades around the NFL last night. The Chiefs traded Sky Moore and a 7th-round pick to the San Francisco 49ers in exchange for their 6th-round pick. Wide receiver Devon Villay was traded from the Broncos to the Saints for a 4th and a 7th-round pick. And the Vikings are also sending defensive tackle Harrison Phillips and a 7th to the Jets in exchange for 2 6th-round picks. Plus the Nats, they got even in their series last night versus the New York Mets. Not a great start or a great night for the starters as Kodai Senga gives up 5 runs on 6 hits and just 4 strikeouts. Brad Lord gives up 4 runs on 7 hits and through 5 1/3 innings pitched. The Nats win by a score of 5-4. They will re-rack versus the Mets today. In this afternoon matchup, Mackenzie Gore takes the mound versus Sean Manaea. First pitch at 4:05. Nats on deck with Charlie and Dave at 3:35 on the Fan. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live every day from 10 to 1, and you can catch Denton's office throughout all of football season. Don't forget to hit the like button whenever you do decide to join us and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
is the Kevin Sheehan Show with Denton Day sitting in for Kevin here on the Team 980. We are taking a break from one of my massive passions, that being the Commanders, and turning to my other massive passion because Week 0 starts on Saturday in college football. I am incredibly excited about it. This season is going to be sensational in college football. Maybe the last season of a 12-team playoff, but who knows? Joining me to help break down the upcoming season is Caroline Fenton. She hosts on Yahoo Sports, the brand new Yahoo Daily, and you can hear her and I sharing the airwaves on Sirius XM throughout the course of the college football season. Caroline, can you believe we are finally here, days away from Week 0 and this thing kicking off in Ireland?
It's about time. I was watching the Commanders Bengals preseason game on Monday night, and that was the first time that I actually felt like, okay, we're back. We're doing this. Like, football is happening. Watching Jaden Daniels and Joe Burrow battle it out, hearing the Monday Night Football theme song music, I was finally transported into my natural state, which is my football season self. So it's here. I'm ready for it. Even if it is Week 0, it's football that matters, and I'm here for it.
So how about we start with the SEC? You mentioned those two quarterbacks. They share the lineage of LSU. I have high expectations for LSU this year because I think there's pressure on Brian Kelly. How do you view the Tigers out of the SEC this year?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to like about LSU, and I think that there's a lot of approach with some hesitation about this team. Look, rightfully so, because this is a team that has won a lot of big games under Brian Kelly and has also lost a lot of big games under Brian Kelly, and that starts with Clemson. Clemson is projected to be a college football playoff contender. Cade Klubnik, like Garrett Nussmeier at LSU, is projected to be a first-round pick and a Heisman Trophy candidate, just like Garrett Nussmeier. So there's a lot of comp that you can make with these two teams. I think overall with LSU, I just felt like year 4 under Brian Kelly is the year. There are no more excuses. That throughout Brian Kelly's tenure at LSU has kind of felt a little bit like right place, wrong time. But in year 1, the offense is solid. Jaden Daniels transfers in, and in special teams, of all things, it's, missed field goals and must punts and, kick returns given up. It felt like every single week there was some sort of special teams bluff. Year 2, Jaden Daniels has, a Heisman Trophy season, the number 1 offense in all of college football, the most explosive offense that we've seen at LSU since the Joe Burrow 2019 year. But the defense was statistically the worst defense that has ever been in an LSU uniform. Okay, great offense, bad defense. Year 3, offense solid, defense improved. They couldn't run the football. So it felt like every single year there's a new problem that's arisen. So Brian Kelly has kind of said, okay, no more. We're bringing back a veteran quarterback that we trust. We are bringing back a bunch of pieces defensively and also supplementing that in the transfer portal. LSU spent a ton of money in the transfer portal this past offseason. That's kind of the message that this entire program and Brian Kelly himself has kind of portrayed to this fan base and to the rest of college football of it's college football playoff or bust for this team. That's really how it feels.
How do they stack up across the SEC? We know that Georgia is perennially good, Alabama is perennially good, and then Texas just happens to have a guy that people like to talk about in Arch Manning. How do they stack up with those teams?
Where it stands right now, and of course, what we talk about in October is going to be completely different from how we feel today on August 21st. But there is this top tier in the SEC, and that belongs to Texas and Georgia. They're kind of in a league of their own. And then there's this next kind of, if you want to call it tier 2 or maybe tier 1B of teams that have really high expectations. And there's a lot to really like about that team, but there's just some questions. LSU, I think, falls in that tier. Alabama falls in that tier. And I would put South Carolina and Texas A&M in that tier as well. And each of those teams have different questions. Texas is bringing in a new starting quarterback. Alabama is bringing in Ty Simpson, their new starting quarterback. South Carolina brings back Lenora Sellers, but they lost a lot defensively. Look at Texas A&M. They're bringing back Marcel Reed, and they bring back a ton of pieces on the offensive line, but they also lost a lot of production on the defensive side of the ball. LSU was one of the rare teams in the top 10, top 15, the preseason AP poll that is bringing back a returning quarterback. You look at the top 10, Texas, new quarterback. Penn State, returning quarterback. Ohio State, new quarterback. Clemson, returner. Then you have Georgia, Notre Dame, Oregon, Alabama, Miami, all bringing in some of these new quarterbacks. So I think that LSU stacks up with not just the rest of college football, with the SEC, has a little bit of an edge of bringing back Garrett Nussmeier. And it's not just year 2 for Garrett Nussmeier, it's year 5. He was patient. He sat behind Jaden Daniels in 2022 and 2023. He waited his turn, and we're kind of seeing that pay dividends. But I think that LSU just has enough question marks, whether it's on the offensive line or Brian Kelly's ability to consistently win big games, that leave at least a big enough question mark to leave LSU out of the top tier of the SEC, where I would put Texas and Georgia, because it is so easy to trust Texas and Georgia.
Talking college football with Caroline Fenton at Caroline Fenton 1. She hosts on Yahoo Sports and Sirius XM. So you mentioned teams that you trust, and then you also happen to mention Penn State. If we're monitoring this on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being please God no, and 10 being yes, I trust them with my life, where does James Franklin fall?
Ooh, he's at a solid, I'll give him a 7. I'll do 7.5.
Wow, that's higher than I thought.
Well, I think that James Franklin, look, everyone says he can't win the big one. I always say we say that about coaches until they do, right? We said Ryan Day couldn't win a national championship, and then he did. I remember when we said that about Kirby Smart once upon a time. Now we view Kirby Smart as the best coach in all of college football. So I can't say that James Franklin can't win the big one. He just hasn't, or at least hasn't beaten the Michigans and the Ohio States of the world on a consistent basis. I think where my trust level comes with James Franklin, he will always win the games that he's supposed to win. Any game in which Penn State is favored, they win those games. And there's a lot of value to that. Trust me, being the fan of a team as an LSU alumni that hasn't consistently won the games that they're supposed to win, there's a lot of value in that. And in the Big Ten, there are the powers that be. There's Ohio State and it is Michigan. Penn State is right there. So if Penn State's schedule in a 9-game Big Ten schedule, they can win 7 of them, well then, and now in a 12-team playoff, and let's see if it expands to 16 and then, 50 like the Big Ten wants, then they'll consistently be in the college football playoff conversation. I trust James Franklin to win the games he's supposed to win. Where he's not an 8 or a 9 or a 10 for me is great. You can beat Boise State and SMU in the college football playoff, but you can't beat Notre Dame. So I can't quite trust him because he hasn't done it yet. And I think that's fair to say. He hasn't done it yet. I can't trust him to do that this year, this upcoming season. But if there is a year to do it, I mean, it's this year. You bring back Drew Aller. Like I just mentioned, there's not a lot of returning quarterbacks this year in college football. You bring back this 2-headed monster on the ground between Katron Allen and Nick Singleton. They could have gone to the NFL if they wanted to. They decided to come back. They supplemented their receiving core in the transfer portal. Now you lose Tyler Warren, who was an absolute monster at the tight end position. You lose Abdul Carter, one of the best defensive players in college football last year. But I think Penn State has more continuity than any other team in the top 10. So I have to give James Franklin just I don't like doing it, but I'll say I'll trust him more this year than I have any other year. And it's fair to say, if not this year, then when?
So it feels like we in our profession always talk about college football playoff expansion. I kind of initially, Caroline, wanted 8, but I liked 12 last year. I thought it worked out pretty well.
12's good.
24, 28. I mean, what was your reaction when you see this rumor that the Big Ten is kicking around the idea of 28?
A big fat eye roll. Like a sigh, an eye roll, just a look of disgust. Because what are we doing? We just expanded to 12. And I liked 12. Now, 12 had its issues. I did not like the seeding. I didn't like the automatic bye for conference champions, but they're fixing that for this upcoming year. And I think that's the correct fix. But can't we just figure out 12 before we go to 16 or 24 or 28? Can't we just enjoy 12 while we have it? Like before we even expanded to 12, we were already talking about 16. Why can't we just sit on something and see how well it works and work out the kinks before we expand? I think we're going to get to a point in college football if we continue to expand the playoffs. And like, I will always sign up for more games that matter. But I think the playoffs should mean something. Like, I think the playoffs should represent as many teams as there are legitimate, serious national championship contenders. Now, even in 12, we didn't get them. But in 12, we got Ohio State. And in a 14 playoff, we wouldn't have gotten Ohio State. So I like that 12 gives us some wiggle room, allows teams to get better throughout the course of the year, allows some teams to have some losses along the way, but still be able to figure things out in the postseason like we saw Ohio State do. You cannot tell me that there are 24 legitimate, serious national championship contenders in college football. You start to dilute the playoff. You start to dilute the very thing that every single coach and every single team in college football is killing to be part of. And I think the other thing too, if you expand the college football playoff, that means more games, which means you take up more of the calendar. I don't want to be living in a college football playoff world where now you're competing with the Super Bowl. Because I have learned that if you compete with the NFL, you are going to lose. So I think the college football playoff needs to be wrapped up before we get to the NFL playoff. And I don't think that's asking for too much.
Yeah, I don't think there was a world last year where if you follow the guidelines they set and like the Big Ten gets 7 teams in, I didn't need to see Michigan, who didn't have a quarterback that could throw more than 5 yards in the playoff. Like I'm good.
I'm good.
Check me out on that one.
Yeah, I'm good. I don't need to see, no disrespect to, East West Valley State University. I'm sure it's lovely and I'm sure it's a wonderful program. I don't need to see them in the playoffs. I think that it's always a good story. And I think the NCAA tournament is a good example of this. We all love these Cinderellas in the first round of the tournament. Like It's fun when St. Peter's beats Kentucky in the first round of the tournament. Once St. Peter's is in the Elite Eight, it's over. It's run its course. It's not sexy anymore. I think the playoff in college football is very similar, that it's really fun to have these Boise's, these Indianas, and these SMUs, right? It opens the door to some teams being able to compete for a championship that in a 14 playoff probably wouldn't have been possible. Like, I don't need to be seeing that, 4 or 5 times over, and I don't need to see that in the Final Four. They're good stories. Everyone loves a good Cinderella, but when it comes time to, actually talking about championship conversations, like, give me the big boys. Like, give me the teams that actually legitimately have a shot at this.
Who's a dark horse this year? A team that no one's talking about that you think could be really good?
I don't know if I can call this team necessarily a dark horse because they are 11th in the preseason poll, but I don't think anyone is talking enough about Arizona State. Like, Arizona State last year was a really, really great story, and I think a lot of people viewed them as such, a good story, that it kind of clouded our vision that the fact that Arizona State was just a really good football team. And that Sam Leavitt was playing towards the end of the season at a Heisman Trophy caliber level. Now, that's not to say that he's going to come back and do that and recreate the exact season that he had this past year, but who says why not? Obviously, you lose Cam Scadaboo. That's a massive loss. He was one of the most electrifying players in college football last year. But you also bring back a lot of talent. You bring back Jordan Tyson. He gets healthy. He was one of Sam Leavitt's favorite targets last season. And I love Kenny Dillingham. I'm obsessed with Kenny Dillingham. I want to play for Kenny Dillingham. He makes me want to put pads on and run out there. So I just have faith in what he's building and enough continuity that they have from last season. And in a Big 12 that I think is going to be an absolute blast to watch. That feels like a wide open conference. So why not Arizona State?
All right, Caroline, I will get you out of here with this. Have you made a championship prediction yet? Or do you at least have some teams that you're eyeing to say, I might lean this direction when it's time to lock in a champion?
Oh, Clemson. There's so much to like about Clemson. And they have NFL talent up and down that roster. I love Cade Klubnik. And again, continuity from last season. If their defensive line, if their run defense can be just 10% improved, along with their offense from last year being slightly improved, I think that this team can absolutely make a run for a championship. But they'll have a fun early test early in the season, week 1 against LSU. I think the winner of that game and the winner of the Texas-Ohio State game, that you might be looking at your national championship right there. The winner of Texas-Ohio State and the winner of LSU Clemson.
Great minds think alike, because I have hammered that. It's at 9-1 now at most sports books, but I got it at like 14-1. So I feel pretty good about my standing there. I love that team, just like you.
Oh, there's just so much to love about it.
Caroline, appreciate the time. We'll definitely do this again. Enjoy week 0 this weekend. We're officially back.
We are so back. I'm so here for it and really appreciate you for having me on.
That is Caroline Fenton, host on Yahoo Sports, host Yahoo Sports Daily, and she's on the airwaves of Sirius XM, where you will be able to hear your boy starting this weekend. Friday, college football overtime is back. I am incredibly excited for it. Only like 5 games this week. We'll go a little bit more in depth about those tomorrow, but any sort of college football is good college football to me. So pumped about that. When we get back in our final hour, Dan Quinn is going to speak in about 35 minutes. You will hear that press conference in its entirety. But when we get back, I believe that Adam Peters is going to get something in return for Brian Robinson. I'll explain to you why. It's the Kevin Sheehan Show with Denton Day sitting in for Kevin on the Team 980. So yesterday was like trade central in the NFL. And I was looking at some of these trades that were made. There's no chance that Adam Peters can't get something back for Brian Robinson.
You would think, you'd hope at least, but like at the same time, you know he's going to get cut. So why would you give up any assets? You know what I mean?
I think what you have to do if you're Adam Peters is start to position teams against one another. Like we have heard that San Francisco is interested
Miami
in Brian Robinson. Miami is another team.
There are a couple others
that is interested in Brian Robinson. And you just have to position those teams against one another and get somebody to bite on a price that is a little bit larger than the other team wants to give up. I'm not suggesting it's going to be a massive haul in return. I don't think, like last year when Adam Peters got a third rounder for Jahan Dotson, we were like, all right, like that's, he was kind of going to be wide receiver 2. He was a first round pick. Like maybe this is a little crazy. And then you started seeing what other receivers were going for who were not as good as Jahan Dotson. And they were going for less. And then you got Debo for like a 5th. And you're like, this Adam Peters guy might be pretty crazy, man. Like his dude might be chefing it up. I believe he's going to get something in return for Brian Robinson. That's why I believe that Brian Robinson has yet to be cut. They have sent him away from the team. He didn't practice yesterday. He's not going to practice today, more likely than not, although Dan Quinn will probably give us an official word on that in about 29 minutes. He gets to the podium prior to practice. They practice at 1 p.m. today. You will hear that presser in its entirety right here on the Kevin Sheehan Show with Denton Day sitting in. Because they have not cut him yet, when everyone on the planet knows that he's not going to be here next year, leads me to believe there is something being cooked up to get something in return for Brian Robinson. And then I see some of the trades that were made yesterday across the NFL. And I'm like, all right, if some of these guys are getting moved and there is something coming back to the team in return, there is a market out there for Brian Robinson. So here were some of the trades that were made yesterday. The one that really caught my eye, Max, that made me come up with this thought process and kind of enlightened me. The Chiefs traded Sky Moore to the 49ers, Sky Moore in a 7th for a 6th round pick. You're like, well, who is Sky Moore? Honestly, I think the Chiefs might ask that question on certain weeks too. Like he had the touchdown in the Super Bowl. I don't know if it was 2 years. It was 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
He had the touchdown in the Super Bowl where everyone's like, oh, this guy might be something. And then when he was expected to be something last year, he was a whole lot of not something. I'm not going to say he was nothing, but he wasn't a lot of things. Like there really wasn't a lot. This dude in 2024
fooled a lot of fantasy managers. Let me tell you that.
He played 14 games. He caught 21 passes for 244 yards and a touchdown. In 2023, let me rephrase that. In 2024, he played 6 games. He was thrown to 3 times. In 2022, I think 2022 might have been the year that he had that touchdown in the Super Bowl. 16 games, 22 catches, 33 yards, 250 yards, no touchdowns. In the regular season, he has caught 43 passes for 494 yards and a whopping 1 touchdown, and he got something in return. Yeah, like there might have been a draft pick attached to him, but it was a 7th, and they got a 6th in return. If that dude can move draft picks, Brian Robinson is better than him. I know there's a lot of people that don't think very highly of Brian Robinson. I happen to like him a little bit. I kind of thought he was going to be running back 1 on this team. I thought he had a pretty decent training camp, stepped into a leadership role from when I was out there at mini camps and training camps, like very vocal. So I was anticipating that Brian Robinson was going to have a big role with this team in 2025, and he's not. He's going to be gone. They're going to go with Rodriguez and Bill and probably Jeremy McNichols, and then, of course, Austin Eckler. Eckler is he is the OG in that running back room, and he is a perfect OG to have in that running back room. Still makes plays, but just a really good head on his shoulders. If Sky Moore, though, who has a total of 494 yards while playing with Patrick Mahomes, if he can get a draft pick in return, Brian Robinson should be able to get a draft pick in return, especially if you play a particular kind of scheme that lends well to running backs, like San Francisco does, Miami does. I mean, these two guys, it's literally from the Shanahan tree. In one hand, it is Shanahan, and then in the other one, it's like Shanahan's younger brother that he kind of likes, but kind of doesn't like because Mike McDaniel is on such a different level personality-wise than what Kyle Shanahan is. But those guys love running the football. I would think they'd be able to find a way to utilize Brian Robinson, at least a little bit. And if you're Adam Peters, you should be able to get something in return for them. And then there was another trade of a wide receiver, a guy by the name of Devon Veely. Veely? V-E-L-E.
I've been pronouncing it Valet in my updates just because it sounds right.
Well, Valet is like high class. You know, it's like filet. Yeah. I don't know if he puts up numbers to be that high class. You know, if he's gonna be pronounced like filet, I'm gonna need to see a couple of 1,000-yard seasons in there. We have seen none of that. This guy, 475 yards, 3 touchdowns last year for the Denver Broncos. He was traded to the New Orleans Saints. He got a 4th and a 7th. And Brian Robinson can't get anything?
Well, it's also the Saints.
Fair point.
Let's keep that in front of our
Not
minds.
exactly the best run organization at this particular point in time. That is correct. That's a fair point. But I feel like if he can have one season of adequate play with a quarterback situation that was pretty good last year, a coaching situation that was pretty darn good last year with Sean Payton, if he can get a 4th and a 7th, I feel like Brian Robinson can at least get a 6th. Like, I'm not asking for a 5th. I'm not asking for a 4th. But I think Brian Robinson can get a 6th.
You'd hope. But given where we're at, like, cuts are coming soon. I really don't know, man. I just don't see anybody that's going to be willing to give up that capital. But if you can, because reportedly, Dallas Cowboys are in on this too. So,
you can swindle Jerry.
Yeah, exactly. That's the one you got to start playing. You got to start playing Jerry a little bit.
I mean, if you're going to swindle anybody, Jerry Jones is prime. He is that filet. He is prime. Swindle that man. You want to talk about a guy that needs some good PR right now? He got Micah Parsons going on the Notes app this offseason. Nothing good has come from the Notes app. Not a damn thing
Not one.
Good has come from the Notes app. Good things come on Letterhead, not the Notes app. And Brian Robinson to Dallas, that would be at least some good PR for Jerry to be like, hey, look, we stole one from
somebody.
We stole one from the division. Hey, he played really well at times. Him and George Pickens with CeeDee Lamb, like we stole one from the Commanders, guys. Maybe you can swindle Jerry Jones. I mean, he gave up a higher round draft pick for that Jonathan Mingo guy than I think anyone anticipated. I'm trying to remember. I think it was either a 4th or a 5th, but it was a guy that had like barely played.
I need Adam.
Gave up that for him.
I need AP to pick up the phone and just float it out there. Hey, Jerry, B-Rob for Micah.
What you actually wanted? What do you think the negotiating process is like for Jerry, like with Jerry Jones? Because the man is senile.
You got to talk to my son, Steven, first.
Like, hey, Jerry, if we make a handshake deal on this, is it going to count?
No.
Are you going to file the paperwork? Because you said you bought the team on a handshake and you're scratching your head as to why Michael Parsons ain't here because you and him had a handshake deal with that, the agent. If we can shake your hand when we get you all liquored up, is that going to count? Will you give us Micah for Brian Robinson straight up? He doesn't want to be there. You probably would love Brian Robinson. He runs hard. You're a running back guy, Jerry. You know, Ezekiel Elliott, the rebirth of Zeke Elliott didn't work very well.
Man.
Run style could be similar if you drink enough alcohol. And maybe if you drink enough, you could make him look like Emmitt Smith. I don't know if weed is legal in Dallas, but
for Jerry Jones,
it is. I mean, Jerry Jones can do anything. He's a billionaire. I think you could get Jerry under enough substances to be like, yeah, the Brian Robinson move might work here. Here's a second.
Absolutely. It would work. Get on the phone, Adam.
And then he'll have his press conference. Jerry Jones will. Adam Peters will not. Josh Harris will not. They'll just be like, hey, we got a 2nd round pick for Brian Robinson. Take a bow. Adam might wear a Let Adam Cook polo after something like that. I was looking at some of these other trades, like Harrison Phillips got traded from the Vikings to the Jets for some draft capital. He's a little bit older, but it was Harrison Phillips in his 7th to the Jets for 2 6th round picks. I mean, this man has had 8 career sacks at the defensive tackle position. Not bad numbers. Feels like much more of a run stopping kind of guy. But if he can net 2 6th rounders, I really don't feel like a lot of teams across the NFL have like a great value for 6th or 7th rounders, especially if you're taking into consideration, like if you are a team as silly as Dallas, or if you were a team like a San Francisco. San Francisco, I don't know how much you've looked at their schedule, Max. Very easy. Like an absolute cakewalk of a schedule. A good running back makes your life a lot easier. And if you're Brian Robinson in that system that they're running there, some of the holes are gaping, like they're impossible to miss. Where he was very obviously missing a lot of holes last year at the end of the year, which is why this predicament has revealed itself. You would be going crazy in San Francisco, and you wouldn't even have to be asked to do that much. Like you're running back 2 behind Christian McCaffrey, who's one of the all-timers of this particular generation. There's no pressure. All you got to do is when you get 8 or 9 carries, just run really hard through that massive opening. That's all you got to do. I think he could very much do that. And I think you could get a 6th round for him because you're not going to draft anybody. Like if you are Miami, right? Or if you are San Francisco. And if I'm Adam Peters, this is what I'm harping on the phone with them. Who are you getting in the 6th round next year that will immediately contribute more than this guy now? The answer is not many. I know San Francisco might scoff at that a little bit because they have had a history of drafting really well deep into the NFL draft, and their quarterback was Mr. Irrelevant, and he got a long-term deal, so they might be the ones that turn their nose up on it. They're just pretentious in general. Like Kyle Shanahan kind of oozes this pretentiousness. I hope Kevin doesn't get mad at me for saying that because I know he loves him. But he is a pretentious SOB in most instances. He grew his hair out too. The only thing worse than a pretentious SOB is a pretentious SOB with good hair. Saying that as a guy that lost his hair before the age of 30, but whatever. I'm a little petty. That's on me more than anything. But they might turn their nose up at that. McDaniel needs everything he can get right now. That situation in Miami, he is very much on the hot seat. He needs a win. And if Brian Robinson helps give him that win, you can replace some of the running back talent that you are down from last year to this year. Why not? Maybe if you're Adam Peters, you troll him a little bit in Miami, be like, hey, Brian Robinson for Tyreek Hill. You guys don't like Tyreek Hill. We know you don't like Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill don't like you guys right now. He said that in front of a camera on a live microphone. Tyreek Hill last year said, I don't want to be here next year. He's there right now. Brian Robinson for Tyreek Hill, straight up. Who says no? Twist the arm a little bit there. But I do think if we're putting jokes aside, I do think in large parts, Brian Robinson can contribute to a team in 2025. Some of the rhetoric around him feels a little overzealous just because we're kind of done with him. I like Brian Robinson. I'm kind of done with him here. He's hit his ceiling, whatever that ceiling is. Don't need to see another year of it. If he's not going to be in the long-term plans, it is best to move on from him as quickly as possible. I think that's as fair to Brian Robinson as it is to your organization, and then in turn to your fan base. You give B-Rob an opportunity to go somewhere else and just see if the grass is greener, see if another situation is going to be more beneficial to him as a player. And then from you as the team's perspective, you get something in return for a guy that you are not going to use, and you kind of avoid what you had to do a bunch last year, which is just releasing and cutting the Ron Rivera guys, because shockingly, nobody wanted to trade anything for Jamin Davis or Emmanuel Forbes or the laundry list of Ron Rivera guys that have not amounted to anything here in DC, because Ron Rivera was far and away the worst drafting general manager / coach that the league has ever seen. I mean, his track record is just stunningly terrible. Like Quan and Cosme are the only hits out of 4 years drafting. Everyone else was a massive swing and a miss. And then it just so happened that everyone else, like the player drafted right after them, happened to be really good. Christian Gonzalez with Forbes, the Chiefs guard who Ron Rivera traded up in front of the Chiefs to draft a freaking long snapper as if this guy was Bill Belichick. All of a sudden, that Chiefs guard has now been like a perennial Pro Bowler who just got a long-term deal. Like, it's insane the amount of swings and misses. You could have drafted Kyle Hamilton. You draft Jahan Dotson instead. I saw something, Max, today about like Jahan Dotson feeling betrayed when he was traded from the Commanders. I don't know if that was from this year or from last year.
It was from recently. They kind of twisted it a little bit. I can pull up the audio if you want.
I would actually like to hear this, please, because I saw it. I saw the Twitter like headline, if you will, about it, but I was busy and I was like, do I
It's
want to talk about
I mean,
Jahan
the most
today?
inflammatory stuff is the Twitter headline, because what he really says isn't all that kind of crazy. That's not okay. That's not what I wanted. That's an ad that's being played off of something else, a different tab.
Not easy though, I can tell you
No,
that.
it's not. It's not easy being
Because
a
Jahan
radio
Dotson
producer.
did next to nothing last year in Philadelphia.
I'd say not next to, that's for sure. But here's what he said.
You know, me, AJ, and Smitty, and me and AJ were talking about just being traded, and how tough of a feeling that is. It kind of feels like you're being betrayed a little bit. But you know, it's the next man up. It's on to the next different opportunity for you, and you gotta take it with that approach. You know, you can't frown upon it. You can't look down upon it. You got to attack it, and make the most of your opportunity. You never know what's going to happen in this league. It's a business at the end of the day, and we all know that. But it is tough. But you know, you got to move on to the next. And I feel like that's just life in itself. You know, something knocks you down, you look at the next obstacle in front of you and attack it. Dive into that playbook.
All right, a great message from Jahan Dotson. We will attack our obstacles. I have a very passionate feeling here, Max. The feeling of when AJ Brown was traded versus when Jahan Dotson was traded were very different.
Probably much different.
AJ Brown got traded and then immediately got a 4-year, $100 million contract. And then Jahan Dotson got traded, had 19 catches in 17 games. Very, very different. I mean, the guy had 216 yards and no touchdowns. Like, he just was not a factor in that offense. I understand the human element of getting traded, and it sucks. That totally get it. On board 100%. But that, like, if Adam Peters can move that guy for a third, and then he goes and has 216 yards, he can get something for Brian Robinson. And there's so many people that are kind of like teeter-tottering on Adam Peters because of the whole Terry situation. I am not. Like, regardless of what happens with Terry, I want him here. I want him to be here, right? Regardless of what happens there, I'm still trusting Adam Peters. He got the most important thing right. He got the quarterback right. And if your argument is, well, all he did was get the quarterback thing right, there's like 7 dudes that have been here, 7, 8 dudes that have been here in the last 30 years that couldn't.
And he's doing
the best. He did.
He's doing the best he can given the circumstance. It's kind of tough negotiating with a side that's very dug in. While you yourself are dug in, but the Commanders have been
and
very
on top of that, you took over this organization that went like 0 of 28 in their draft picks because Ron sucked. So you don't have the benefit of like, oh, this guy's on a rookie deal for a long. You cut all them dudes because all them dudes were not very good. And you like, I can only imagine when Adam Peters walked out to practice the first day and you saw like Emmanuel Forbes. And you're just like,
that pause at that initial presser is like, we got a lot of work to do.
Lot of work to do. If he can get something for Jahan Dotson, he can get something for Brian Robinson. I know y'all don't like Brian Robinson. He can get something for Brian Robinson. And it's more than just a bag of chips or more than like a Ben's Chili Bowl half smoke, although I'd love one of those right now. He can get something for Brian Robinson. I'm expecting him to get something for Brian Robinson. Dan Quinn is going to talk in 12 minutes here. You will hear that presser in its entirety on the Team 980. Coming up next, where is Jaden Daniels going to fall in the NFL top 100 list? Well, he's at least top 20. That's next. It's a Kevin Sheehan Show with Dende sitting in. I was expecting when the NFL Top 100 list came out that Jaden was going to be top 25, and that my hope was he was going to be top 20. Well, they are continuing to release names on this list. They do 2 every single day on the NFL. They released 24 and 23 today. 24 was Raiders tight end Brock Bowers. 23 was Eagles offensive tackle Lane Johnson. I'm starting to feel comfortable, Max, that our guy is going to be a top 20 player in this year list. Not that I really care that much about the NFL Top 100. I actually really hate the way that they're prolonging this. I liked it a lot better when they just released like 10 a week.
It was much easier.
It was so much easier.
Much easier.
So much easier. And it was like more of an event. It felt like, hey, like the list is coming out. The 10 for this week is coming out now. Or, hey, we got another 10 coming out today. And then you just fuel sports radio across the country for like 2 days. So the 2x2 thing is like, that was cool with Noah and the ARC situation. But with the NFL Top 100, like, I'm good. I could just give me the 10 all in one. But if Lane Johnson is 23, last year, I believe somebody told me CJ Stroud was top 20 last year. And Jaden's season this year was better than the season that CJ Stroud had last year. Lane Johnson is one of the top offensive tackles in the league. He's probably going to be number one. Maybe Trent Williams gets in above him. Maybe there's one other tackle that gets in above him. But Lane Johnson, who's a member of the Madden 99 club this year, I would imagine that's like the final tackle that's going to be. We're getting closer and closer to Jaden being named on this list. He is going to be by far and away the highest, or I guess lowest, on the list by any Commander, Redskin, Washington football team. I looked this up the other day. Trent Williams had been in the top 40 a couple of times. I think the highest he got was either 44 or 45, but he certainly didn't get anywhere near like a top 20. And I'm doing my best. I think they started doing this list in 2015 or 2016. There are not a lot of players on this Washington roster, on any of those Washington rosters, that would constitute being ranked in the top 20 on any of those years. So Jaden is going to be the highest Commander that has ever graced the NFL Top 100 list. Now we are just begging the question of how high is he going to go on this list? Could we go top 15?
I mean, man, CJ was 20. So he's got to be in the teens if this is the best rookie season that we've ever seen.
Are you going to participate in what is the looming social media firestorm when Jaden gets ranked above Jalen Hurts?
Participant? No.
Watch from the sidelines, maybe?
Yeah, very happy watcher on the sideline with my popcorn, yes.
Because the Eagles fans, they're not going to like that one very much. It's going to happen. It should happen. I mean, if you got a guy like Von Miller who is deciding to leave Josh Allen to come play for Jaden Daniels, it's a pretty good sign about how people feel about him across the league.
Real quick aside, you know what's crazy about the NFL Top 100? So the first list debuted April of 2011. The number one player on the list, Tom Brady.
So I was way off year-wise, but yeah, go ahead.
The Tom Brady also ranked number one in 2022, 11 years after the list came out.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts. That second run of Tom Brady is pretty
silly.
I mean, all because the Seahawks threw it. You know, you run the football there. Marshawn Lynch gets in. Maybe you don't get the second run of Tom Brady. Maybe it just looks different. Maybe you don't get Deflategate. Maybe you get Deflategate earlier. I don't know.
Pete Carroll could have rewritten history.
The Tom Brady second run is like one of the more fascinating stories of the last 10 to 15 years of the NFL.
Sacrificed his family for it.
I mean, he did. And now I think Giselle's pregnant with the trainer's baby. Allegedly. I don't know. But I'm expecting that Jaden Daniels is going to be top 20 now. If these two guys, I will not. So they're going to release 2 tomorrow, and then they hold the top 20 until obviously on Monday. They don't release anything on Saturday and Sunday. That would just be silly, especially with preseason games going on, or at least on this Saturday. There might be 1 or 2 on Sunday, but I think the preseason stops on Saturday. Then you get cut down day on Tuesday. So Monday might be when they start releasing 10 at a time rather than just the 2x2x2 situation that they've been doing. But I anticipate that we are going to see Jaden at the very earliest next Monday on this list, then potentially deeper into the week if he is closer to 15 than he would be to 20, which I think would be very, very fair for the guy that had the best rookie season of any quarterback in NFL history, which The Athletic did something about that. They ranked the rookie quarterbacks over the course of history. Washington had 2 of them in the top 4. Robert was 4, Dak Prescott was 3, CJ was 2, and then Jaden Daniels last year was number 1, as it should be. Coming up next, Dan Quinn is going to step to the podium. You will hear that presser in its entirety. What does he have to say about Terry McLaurin today? Have they found Waldo? You'll find out when we get back. It's the Kevin Sheehan Show with Dente sitting in.
All right, here's what's happening on this Thursday, August 21st. The Commanders are signing center Nick Harris, who spent the last 5 years in Cleveland, 45 games played and 6 starts. Sounds like Mike Dieter may have some competition for the backup center spot. At the very least, some depth on the interior O-line. Plus some trades in the NFL last night as the Kansas City Chiefs sent Sky Moore and a 7th-round pick to the San Francisco 49ers in exchange for their 6th-round pick. Also, wide receiver Devon Villay was traded from the Broncos to the Saints in exchange for a 4th and a 7th-round pick, plus the Vikings. They are also sending defensive tackle Harrison Phillips and a 7th-round pick to the Jets in exchange for 2 6th-rounders. The Nats, they evened their series last night with the New York Mets. Not a great night for the starters as Kodai Senga gives up 5 runs on 6 hits and just 4 strikeouts. Brad Lord giving up 4 runs on just 7 hits through 5 1/3 innings pitched. The Nats win by a score of 5-4. They will re-rack versus the Mets this afternoon. Mackenzie Gore takes the mound versus Sean Manaea. First pitch at 4:05. Nats on deck with Charlie and Dave at 3:35 on The Fan. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live every day from 10 to 1, and you can catch Denton's office throughout all of football season. Don't forget to hit the like button whenever you do decide to join us and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
It's the Kevin Sheehan Show. Denton Day sitting in for Kevin here on the Team 980. You can tweet me at the Denton Day. All football talk, Commanders talk on the Team 980 is presented by Paramount Plus. You can't count on much these days, but you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. Watch your local NFL game every Sunday on CBS and Paramount Plus all season long. Visit ParamountPlus.com/NFL to get started today. Dan Quinn just sat down at the podium in Ashburn. We will send you out there live to hear the head coach of the Commanders.
Over the last month, a couple of things that came to mind as I was driving and thinking. I really appreciated the fans that came to see us over the last month. For the players, I thought the new parts of the facility was really effective for them. And knowing from locker room to training room to the things that, they needed, like tip my cap to Josh on that to make sure he provided that. And I thought just from a team standpoint, I haven't shared it with the players yet, but I thought they put a lot of work against each other. I thought this would be a competitive camp based on the roster that was coming in and going against each other to level it up to go. So I was pleased with that. We have a unique practice format today, so I'm glad you guys are here to watch. We have the NFL officials here, and we're also going to work a ton of situations today. It's really you've heard us talk like winning time moments and how we do that. Just for an example, last season alone, we had 13 one-score games. We had around 20 or so, maybe 20 plus 2-minute at the end of the halves, 17 or 18 2-minutes at the end of the game, counting either an offense or a defense. And so today you'll see us compete against ourselves, go against the clock, work different scenarios, and really try to pressure test ourselves to see, can that threshold be even lower? Can you get on the ball that much quicker? And so I'm kind of pumped to give that a go. This the first time I'll be doing that with the entire NFL officiating crew and working these situations and the clock. So we've do them at joint practices, but to have everybody here for one of just our practices, yeah, it's pretty cool. So we're going to really lean into that hard today in preparation really for the year to pressure test ourselves. Can we even get sharper? It's such a big part of what we do. We have a lot of confidence in those spaces. So let's test ourselves a little further today. All that said, get rocking with you guys. Get rocking with you guys. Sure. What do you want to discuss? So many topics. Yeah. That's a veteran right there. It's not his first rodeo. That for sure. And we've really added into the line too, John. And so we wanted to dig in to say, what are some of the most effective things, from the line in terms of how we would use guys, which guys can pull and trap and do that. So adding some of the gap schemes to what we've done has been a big deal. And so we haven't had everybody all together, doing it all the time, but I'm pleased with the progress we're making. And you're right. When you do add Jaden into it, now it can be, defending all 11, a good bit of the time. And so that definitely changes the math, from the defensive standpoint. But I think it's all around. I'm seeing the physicality of the receivers, downfield blocking. So by no means are we there all the way, but it does take a while to develop that. And I like where we're headed. Yes. Let's talk with Noah. He's also kind of like pushing past the rehab portion of the strength side, and now like on the return to play, the accelerations, the decel. So yeah, he's close as well. And as he's targeting through this week and into next week, the arrow is certainly pointing really up for him, and we're pleased with where he's at. So yeah, good signs with Noah too.
If you haven't already, the Brian Robinson issue situation. How do you counsel a guy like Bill Krosky Merritt? Because if P-Rob moves on, obviously he's gonna be one of these bell cows.
You're right that like you guys seen it even over the last couple of days, a lot of moving parts this year with the NFL. Well, not this year, every year around this time. As far as down the line, I really haven't gone there with Bill, and I really wanted to make sure, man, let's just dig in and like be present into this, and knowing I'll let down the road work from there. But this time of year is always funky for players, and the message I had told them yesterday, hey man, I know this is a difficult week, and I encourage them, don't think about next week, this week. It's not going to help you perform better this week. And so looking at a roster, am I going to be on the 53 or the practice squad, or what do my odds look like? And so that was really the message I tried to give yesterday, because it's this funky space. There's some guys that are already on the roster, some that are fighting for it. So I just tried to make that, hey, this is normal. Like everybody has these same emotions, but can we bring it back to be grounded and present into what we're now? So I haven't gone too far ahead with Bill or many of the other players just yet.
I think with the schedule, we'll talk to you after Saturday's game. What will you guys, you certainly have an idea of who you want to keep.
Right.
What will your coaching staff go through after that game with the guys having a couple of days off and then the cut down?
Yeah, Adam and his later personnel meeting with us this week, where we reviewed, games and where people are at. And so each of the coaches, goes through each position and through each player. And it's helpful, because you're not in every meeting room. You're not, in every spot. So we did have that this week. And then this week we'll have some more evaluations. And then Adam, will huddle everybody up as well. And then think of the two spaces of the 53 and the 70. And as everybody would know, that roster is also, it's a little fluid as it even starts, the earliest part of the season. I can remember, the first being in the NFL, hearing Bill Walsh say that. And at the time, I didn't really know what he meant, as I was in my rookie coaching season. But now, 25 years later, I get it. And it's still pretty true today, of how that works.
Dan, John asked you about Noah Brown. Sounds like you're trending in the right direction for week one.
Correct.
Obviously, Terry is still out, and injuries happen over the course of the year. From the outside, it seems like there's some decent uncertainty with the wide receiver depth. Where are you at with that group right now?
I liked what I saw. You probably saw in the game, we worked Jalen some outside. And so I thought he's one, Ben, that I see the ascension taking place. You can often feel it from the coaching point into the drill, onto the field. He can apply it very quickly. So we saw Luke outside, Jalen outside, and that was by design to make sure, all right, what else, where we are. Chris Moore will also be one that'll work back into today and into the game this weekend. So that's where we're at. We like where Noah and Terry are trending towards, but like you said, you want a contingency plan for everything. And that's why we decided to work some guys outside and inside. So that's what we've done.
And in terms of the backfield, obviously Brian was the short yardage guy. He was very effective in that role. It's easy to say, hey, Chris Rodriguez has that style. Is that kind of how you view it? He's the guy that's likely to be that short yardage, maybe goal line back?
Yes. And I would say there's also parts of our offense that are a little bit untraditional, where we're not, traditional and using a lead blocker sometimes in short yardage. So, but I do like knowing that Chris has that tackle breaking ability, and especially, in a small space. But yeah, I would say that would be one that's at the front of the thinking first.
Good afternoon, Coach.
Good afternoon, Dave.
I know you said you guys spent a lot of time as a coaching staff this offseason, also working to get better. Is there an assistant coach or even more who have really stood out this training camp period to you and seen that growth?
Probably the highlight for me, and not to highlight one, but people going into new roles during the burgundy and gold scrimmage for us. So Cliff and Joe were in the head coaching roles. It was Brian and Jason and Tommy Donatel into new spots. So that 2-day window provided a lot. And it was really cool to see people step into new spots. Shane Tobe is one as a line coach, like, man, he's on it. And so to use that as an example, along with others, it was helpful for me to see that we got a big, deep crew, and like the succession planning of who's here and what they could do. You have to test that as well. And so that was an effective 2 days for us.
And for talking to Quan Martin before he got the preseason action this last Monday night, I know for him, getting those first game reps and hits on those shoulders was a big moment for him. To see him kind of just go for it and not really be hesitant and then come out of it obviously clean. How important is that for you, but then also for the player?
For those of us that know Quan, did you really think he'd hesitate? And he is as tough as it gets. But I did talk to him before the game, and he was excited, and we wanted to have that moment before the regular season to make sure the contact, and for anybody who's coming back from an injury or a surgery, like there is that first hit jitters. Okay, this is normal. This is how it's supposed to feel. So it was an important part of it. But if you saw maybe on the tackle that he made down on the 1 yard line, there was not an ounce of hesitation or finish about him. But he has quietly also become really one of the leaders around here. And you've heard us talk about developing leaders. I think Quan might be up near the top of that. You hear us talk about, a Revo or Tress or somebody that had this established leadership. And now my job is to see the leaders in others. And Quan's somebody that comes to mind in my mind on that. Like, he is definitely becoming a voice here that is really strong and very well heard in the locker room.
Hey, Coach. So last day of training camp, and I think I asked you this question last year as well on the last day of training camp.
Oh, my gosh. I got to go get the transcript.
Which is there anything keeping you up at night right now? I mean, there's always room for improvement all the time on everything, right? But is there anything that you're like, man, I wish we could have nailed that during camp?
Yeah, it's funny like that. The things that are going good don't keep you up at night. It's the things that you're struggling with and stressed about to go. So this time of year, it's the roster and giving insight to Adam and to his team to make sure we're nailing it, the right playing time at a practice or a game for the evaluations to get there. Fortunately, we've hit a lot of the things that stress me out. Is the team ready for these end of game moments? And so last year we were new together. And so it was also new for me communicating with Cliff and Joe and Larry in game. We're going to go for here on fourth if it gets to 1, 2, or 3. So for me, having another lap at that all through camp, that's been good. So my biggest stressor is just providing the right information, getting the right looks. And it'll be a tough team for the 53, tough decisions for sure. But as a coach, that's also what you want. To say, man, these are some really tough decisions. And so I'm definitely looking at those, and that's what's keeping me up.
And you mentioned that yesterday you talked about the different displays of brotherhood that you saw on Monday night. And Jaden shared with us about getting the touchdown ball for Bill. And he said that Zach and Terry did the same thing for him.
Who did?
He said that Zach and Terry did the same thing for him last year.
Right.
That's what Jaden shared. And so, okay, I guess that's new news for you. Maybe you didn't know.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I know his first touchdown pass was to. I do remember that. But I don't remember it from the preseason. That's cool.
And so, but witnessing what you did, watch Jaden do that for Bill, how did that make you feel as the head coach?
One, I wasn't surprised that it was him. I didn't know that he was doing it. And then he was going from one referee to the next to make sure he had the exact ball. So I think it's an example of like who Jaden is. And it's a nice thing to pass down to someone else too. Hopefully, Bill can put himself into that spot one day. And those are the things from players to players, peer to peer. When you see it, you just know what it looks like. And I saw a lot of it in the game. I saw, like I said, Jonathan Jones in a rain jacket on the sideline, coaching guys up. So the environment that we've created here through the players is like, one, like, can they really push it to be excellent? But there's also just random acts like that. Like, Jade's an exceptionally good dude. And so, like, he wasn't going to miss that moment. It had nothing to do with teaching Bill. He was just, like, wanting to celebrate with him. So there were a lot of people that would have done it, but I'm not surprised it was him. It was still clear that he remembered that moment. And I think that's a cool way to pay it forward. And hopefully another person who's a rookie can pass it on to another rookie as a yearly tradition. That's pretty cool.
Hey, Coach, in looking back at the second game a little bit on defense as far as the containment around the edges, what did you see there?
Burrow can be a tough one to get down. Like, he is real athletic in the pocket and out. I did like the finish, Donna, on one of the sacks where the coverage downfield had to be strong too.
You will notice there was not many questions directly related to Terry, but I would not expect him, Max, to be out there on the field today. If Terry was going to be out there on the field, the opening statement from Dan Quinn would have included that information. Instead, it was like a thank you for the training camp and all of the positives that came from training camp. And it is important to point out that despite how the Terry story has been the overarching story of this entire training camp, there have been a lot of real positives just in terms of the facilities themselves, the upgrades that they have made to the welcoming of the fans and the way that they kind of set that situation up this year. So there were some really good positives that came from training camp. Would not expect to see Terry out there. We did get a question about Noah Brown. Noah Brown is a guy that we've talked about today. I don't really know what is a fair expectation for him in 2025, both in terms of any sort of production, but more so in terms of availability. He will be forever ingrained in this organization's history because he was on the receiving end of the Hail Mary. So there's nothing that can be done to take him away from that moment. That was one of the best moments that this organization has had in quite some time. But I don't know how much you can really realistically expect to see him out there on the field in 2025. It does feel like, not knowing the severity and extent of the injury, they've kind of kept it very tight to the vest. And maybe that's because we, as a fan base and media, have been so ingrained with the Terry conversation that we've just allowed the Noah Brown injury discussion to fly under the radar. But I don't know how much you can expect to see him out there, which could be really, really great for a guy like a Jalen Lane. I did find what Dan Quinn said about Jalen Lane to be particularly interesting, just on not so much what he said about Jalen Lane, but you could tell, Max, there was a rise in enthusiasm when he started talking about Jalen Lane. And that leads me to believe that what they are seeing from him is either meeting or exceeding expectations to this early point, which gets me really, really excited. There are some things that Jalen Lane can provide to this offense that really spread it once everybody gets back. Once Terry's back, gives you a lot of flexibility on what you want to do with Deebo Samuel. And then just having that skill set with Jalen Lane, who I feel like can win a lot of matchups in the slot. He kind of has like that Tyler Lockett kind of size to him in the early portion of his career. He has the speed element that not many other guys are going to have at the slot position. I feel like you can really take advantage of that if he starts progressing in a way that at least the enthusiasm of Dan Quinn alluded to. He is a guy that's going to be really, really exciting. And I would also point out, you haven't seen him a ton on special teams. He's definitely returned some punts in the preseason, but you haven't seen him as much as I thought you were going to see him. Maybe that's my own expectations just being completely skewed for what the team was going to do. But I bring this up to say, if they're not using him a ton on special teams, where I thought they were going to use him, it's likely because they have way more for him planned offensively, which is a positive thing. You use him on special teams as like a, hey, you're on the roster, first year, game slow down kind of thing. And then eventually when the game does slow down a little bit, we'll put you on offense a little bit more and have you earn your stripes, rookie, and all that sort of stuff. it does make it feel like maybe because of the absence of Noah Brown, that he is getting a lot more opportunities running some first-team reps, especially with the absence of Terry as well. But he's getting some more opportunities running first-team reps. And because there hasn't been a massive separation between everybody not named Deebo Samuel, you are seeing a separation, not massive, but a separation with Jalen Lane that leads them to feel really, really comfortable on utilizing him in some offensive packages, and then maybe just more frequently instead of packages, just using him on offense, right? You hear the word packages and you're like, all right, that's like gimmicky, maybe like 10 to 15 plays or something like that, whatever. Just using him on offense, though, I feel like if Jalen Lane can be a legitimate weapon on this offense, the chemistry that Deebo has with Jaden is already really, really good. Very, very positive. If Deebo is healthy for this entire year, he is going to be a nightmare for defenses. When Terry is back, and if Terry is healthy for this entire year, he has proven he's going to be a nightmare for defenses. If you add Jalen Lane in there as well, and then you consider how good Zach Ertz was last year, which I don't know that Zach Ertz is going to go for nearly 800 yards the way that he did this year, but I still think you're going to get some really quality games and some quality catches from Zach Ertz this year. If you have all four of those guys, not even considering the running back situation, not even considering how Jaden's legs are going to be, you really open this offense up that was already crazy last year in terms of production. You really open this offense up for light years better than what they were last year, which should strike fear in the hearts of everybody. With all the weapons that they're going to have at the disposal of the biggest weapon, which is number 5, you really are striking fear in opposing defenses. And it also allows Jaden the opportunity to get the ball out and get the ball out quickly. There's some of the defensive lines that you're going to face. Philly's defensive line is filled with a bunch of monsters. Dallas's defensive line is good without Michael Parsons. With Michael Parsons, you add maybe the biggest game wrecker in the NFL. And then this New York Giants defensive line is going to be hell. It is. They got a lot of really good players. If you give Jane the opportunity to get the ball out quick and then just let those wide receivers do what they do, get the ball in open space, this offense is going to be a nightmare for defenses across the NFL. And the game is only slowing down for Jaden Daniels. So the way that Dan Quinn spoke there about Jalen Lane leads me to believe that expectations for him are growing. And if expectations for Jalen Lane to grow and grow and grow, and that could be some really, really fun things to come for this Commanders offense. So that was probably my biggest takeaway. This entire thing was that Dan Quinn really liked Jalen Lane. And that answer with Jalen Lane was the most enthusiasm that he had during that entire press conference. We shall see. We will get reports when practice actually starts as to whether or not Terry's out there. Not anticipating that. If he is out there, I'm sure Chris Russell will be all over. And speaking of Chris Russell, he is taking over for me coming up next year on the Team 980. For Max and video producer Brian, I've been Dead Today. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us. Had a lot of great calls. Big thanks to Caroline Fenton and David Harrison. We are back tomorrow on Friday, looking ahead to preseason game number 3 with the Baltimore Ravens in town. Rooster is next on 980.